This one. Are you good with this, Kim? Because you didn't even look at this.
I did. I read it. Remember,
you did
I told
it this
you.
morning. Okay.
Yeah, I read it. I read it today.
Can I look at it one more time?
Yep.
But I didn't print it out because I was
I
reading
was
it
just
on my
saying, if she's
computer.
gonna print, well, I want to print it out.
Oh yeah, can you print?
change
The landowner one
Yeah,
too?
do you
I
want-
did
do you
not
have it?
because
I'll make it
it's
sit here.
on and you might want to bring that out and look at that and point out because I think somewhere I implied that no community was involved and I
I know
think
where it is.
at some point through the
That
Well,
was,
no, I think the
part of
implication
this.
was that without input from the landowners, and we did do a survey, and
here it is.
everybody on the house is landowners.
right.
Oh, yeah.
The only part,
Are we
when I
Here's
read
a
it,
copy of
Here.
it.
is
so-
like-
I don't have that. Here.
No,
I
it's
sent
printed.
Here,
It's
it's
printed.
Why am I
Robert,
asking
do
you?
this.
So y'all can't have me do two
It's the same
different things
thing.
at the same time.
So this is.
Because I can't pass your stuff out.
Council letter and landowners to downtown corridor. So instead of going on, we're moving on to F without, even though do we need a motion to approve that?
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to motion to approve that.
And then we'll execute it all together. So we need to finalize the next, I need a motion to execute the council letter to the HOA boards.
So
So
moved.
moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now we're on to, so Barbie.
The landowners,
The
it's coming
landowners
around.
letter. And again, I was not coming in here with the expectation to sign it, but if you guys are comfortable with that, then we can just have her do it and have everyone sign it or sign it the next time you're in here if we did a straw poll. I mean, it may come up on the work session meeting and we can have it ready for that. There's no rush on this. Again, I just literally, I was hoping to get it to you earlier, but I didn't have that capability on my computer, so.
Nick made a good point that, I go with a letter that everyone in Marvin is a landowner, where do we?
I'm just saying where it says it's our current view that minimum effort was made to have involvement from the current landowners or the community. And then we did have a survey and, everybody.
Well, we had a survey, we met with the group over at Casey's place, right, Joe? You went, Joe?
What's
We
that?
went to Casey's place with the landowner group.
Mhm. But the village wasn't, we were a part of that and we listened.
Right? And then we had our, what do you call, public input meetings for the land use, and that was part of it, because I remember Mary saying a lot of them came in.
I mean, I'm in favor of
Yeah.
having this meeting also, but I think we should take that out. because,
Yeah, I don't want it to sound like we're being prejudiced towards you, and not him as a landowner.
No, I understand that, it's just, and that, then again, it's just an initial draft.
I am.
I am,
Where's the
we are
line
listening to
that
current
you're
village
talking
council bills and paragraphs.
Which line did you want
Ron,
to
do you
strike
have
me?
multiple copies by any
I
chance?
do.
Yeah, because this one is specific,
Third line down is our
because this
current
one, the
view.
reason we're contacting these is specific to this corridor. And where do I say that before, Nick?
Effort was made.
I think it's all good, I get the next point, it says it is our current view that minimum effort has been made.
Where's that at, first?
First
Okay,
paragraph,
current view,
third line.
okay. How about just strike that, that the minimum effort has been, we'll just strike that. Current
Which one are
landowners-
you striking?
First paragraph, second sentence, it is our current view that minimum effort has been made to have any involvement from current landowners or the community that could be directly affected. So we go right into, over the past years, input from past landlords, and then we go, before gathering community input, we felt we would be better served to hear from you, the landowners, directly. Now, I'm speaking to the specific ones that are along this corridor.
That's the village.
If you're receiving this letter, you've been identified as one of the few landowners who own land along Newtown, Marvin Road, Waxhaw, which includes us too. So Marvin, the village of Marvin,
Is
because
it
we own that
undeveloped
corner.
land?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to put undeveloped land so it's clear?
Or developed or undeveloped, because would a house be considered developed?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he's right.
Could I make a suggestion too? That
Sure.
last sentence, could you make that be the first sentence? So that they know right away why they're getting it?
If the
That's-
majority of the landowners,
If you're receiving this, you've been one of the few landowners who own land along Newtown Road, Waxhaw, Marvin, or Marvin School Road, with the
Yeah.
village of Marvin's
Yeah.
boundaries.
That's it.
That's what I would do.
Number one.
Yeah.
Good idea. Add to first part. Okay, then you go over the past number of years.
Yep.
Sought to update our land use plan with input from current and past council members, planning board members, committees, individual staff members. We better sure to hear from you, the landowners directly. These have been identified by past as potential downtown corridor that currently serves and will continue to serve as a cut through for surrounding municipalities. That said, the Village of Marvin has always been known for their strict ordinances. We want to protect our ordinances and at the same time look at the potential for improving this area with the current and future flow of traffic. Improvements such as roundabouts are a good example of how we are looking at improving this corridor.
If it's a public meeting
Right.
and some are invited to speak, do we have to allow everyone to?
At public comments, you do, at every regular meeting, you allow public comments.
Okay,
So
so
where it says, however, only landowners will be invited to speak at this first meeting.
Well,
I think what Joe's saying
It's
is
placed at the table.
present.
at the table, to just say, hey, what do you guys want? I mean, it'd be nice to know, to hear directly, all of us hear from Fincher saying, hey, I want to keep this, I'd like to see this. Joe Blow across the street may have a completely different idea of what he wants and stuff.
So there'll be a moment at the table. but
Sure.
We're not talking about public speaking.
Right.
Okay, so while you're being contacted, we are listening. I like to say we are continuing to listen. Of course, we have been listening. We've had meetings, we've had input meetings, we've had surveys. We shouldn't be starting from scratch, yeah. I think we pretty
That's
much
fine.
know what some of these guys want.
We are,
We can say, we continue to listen.
so, in effect, expression of price starts with you, everybody need to hold it on to it. The statute will be considered a public meeting, open to all, however, landowners are invited to speak at this first one. We could say public comment will be available,
How-
or
And what
because it
about-
is a public,
because
is it
yeah,
required
as
to?
an-
If it's a special meeting, you
it's-
don't have to have public comment.
Not at special meetings, you don't.
And this would, I would
It'd be
assume,
a
be like a
special
special meeting.
Yeah, then that's fine.
Okay.
What if you said, however, only invited landowners? Oh.
Well, we have to put it open to everyone, a
Oh,
special
oh,
meeting.
only- No, but only landowners would be invited to speak.
Yes,
Oh, okay,
meaning
okay.
that they have,
Mhm.
and we don't have, if you're saying, confirming that special meetings don't require public comment,
I
we
knew that
won't
for a
have
fact.
public, okay, so we may have people in the audience.
A lot of people still have it, public comment.
Right.
If you can still have it, you don't have to, you only have to have it at that one
Okay,
regular meeting.
okay. We wanna condense it, everyone's gonna, we really wanna just hear from them.
Right.
Is the whole point.
So here you have, we would like to hear back from you. It's
We
the,
could change that.
change that to, we are looking forward to you sharing your plans with us. Right? Because there's still plans gotta come to us. I'm not gonna tell you you have to build X here. You gotta come.
Your
to-
ideas
Yeah.
instead of plans, because they may not have a
Ideas and
plan.
plans, there we go, there we go.
You'd like to,
Yep. We'd like,
what did you say?
We
Did
look
you
forward
get-
to
Right.
hearing
Your
from
ideas.
you
Visions or
to schedule a meeting to talk about your ideas and plans.
your vision.
Your
Where-
vision.
Is that where
Your vision.
we'd like to hear back?
Yeah, we look forward
Yeah, strike,
to.
we would like to hear back from you. So it sounds like Barbie, you need to probably take this back on your own and we
Yeah.
can sign it at the.
Yeah, go ahead,
Well,
Barbara,
not
take that
now,
back
not
on
now.
the July meeting.
No, I'm just saying is, if we can get through this and we change it and then we can do we can approve it at the work session meeting is what
Yeah.
I'm saying. So I did not plan to go this depth into it as far as having
Okay,
a letter
so-
today.
So repeat that sentence, we look forward to.
Hearing
Back
We
from
look forward
you.
to you sharing
you sharing
your
ideas and
ideas and
visions.
plan, and
And
plan
vision.
with us, or
Yeah.
vision.
Vision and ideas with
We
us.
look
No,
forward
but
to-
you want to hear back from them if they're even interested in sitting down. And then you want to hear about their vision once we're sitting down.
Because what I was basically saying, they would like to hear back from all of you, and if the majority
We'll
says,
get
you know
together
what,
and do this. How about
we don't
that?
want to deal with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
village,
Yeah.
then we don't have to have a
Yeah,
meeting.
please let us know whether you are or not interested in
Yes.
this type of meeting.
That's
Yeah.
perfect. And then we're just leaving that, because this is just the, putting our toe in the water, saying, hey, we have an idea, we'd like to sit down, your council
Yeah,
and stuff.
we'll do that.
Like that?
We give them
Yep,
the
we're good.
Yeah,
opportunity to come.
Kim and I are gonna get together with it.
Awesome.
And
I'll
is this-
finish
I
up
thought
the
I was
letter
doing so
whispering.
good, you know, my little
You did, you
letter
did good.
whisperer.
You
Is
did.
this coming
You're
just
doing
from
really
the mayor?
No, all
Or
of
this
us.
is coming from everybody
So
as well?
the other one we will all sign, is that correct?
Yep.
You can get that one? That should be, okay, next up,
Letter whisperer.
So does this need to go back on a
8G.
future agenda?
Yeah, the
Yes.
28th.
Going to come back for us to sign.
Okay. Okay. G.
A, F.
Alright, so where are we at now?
G.
G.
Oh, I guess that one was kind of, from Barbie and I looking for direction. We looked back historically and it seems that the original agendas are posted to the website, but that when you all make changes, like tonight, the way you move things around and added or deleted, those revised agendas are not separately posted. They ultimately are posted once the minutes are approved, but they could be a long time down the way. So we wanted to get direction from you all as to should we be, once a meeting is done, should the clerk revise the agenda and post the revised agenda to the website?
With strikeouts in it though?
With-
So you can see
with
what the changes
changes.
were.
yeah.
Right,
I like-
the
I like
same
that.
way it would
Strike
be in the
out
minutes, right?
tabled, strike out removed,
Yeah.
or move
Right,
to
because
this.
isn't that what
Yeah,
you put in the
yeah.
minutes, a
Yeah.
strikeout version?
'Cause
Yeah.
But there's no town that does that.
there's no town that does that, okay.
No.
So if I go
Because somebody made
back,
a comment one time that, at a previous meeting, and so that the updated or revised agendas were or were not on the website, I can't remember what, but for whatever reason, Barbie and I followed up on that and figured out that we have not been doing this.
Right.
But then she said nobody else is either.
so one of the reasons to argue that, and not saying that's right or wrong and stuff, so say we don't do that and stuff, but if I am a Joe citizen and I go back and look at former agendas and I see something that was, I believe it was on there, and then it's not on there, so I would have no way of knowing.
Other than
Minutes.
listening to the recording.
When
No,
minutes
the
are-
minutes have the revised
Yeah,
agenda.
but we're like 9
So
months
when the
behind that,
minutes
so
are
that's not a
adopted,
good
yeah.
thing.
Right,
The
or-
minutes are adopted, it
Yeah.
has the revised agenda.
Or the recording describes at the beginning of the meeting the revisions.
Oh, it does?
Yes,
And-
well, because it's the
Well, I mean,
recording of the
in
meeting.
the,
Oh, okay.
in the minutes,
That's
they're
when the first
notated,
changing-
what changes you make
Yeah.
within the
And
agenda,
I'm
it's already
okay with that, if
notated
you
in the
guys don't want
minutes.
to have, to put
I mean,
extra work on her
They
to
eventually get on there,
revise it.
right? I mean, eventually.
They don't.
As
They're
part of the
recorded in,
minutes.
as,
No,
they're
but
recorded in
eventually
the
the
minutes.
revised does when the minutes are
As
The
a
approved.
minutes,
part
yes,
of
when
the
the minutes are
minutes.
approved.
They
Yeah.
do?
So they eventually get on there.
Okay,
Yes.
so,
Okay, so what we need to do is get the minutes approved quicker. That way she doesn't have to do it right away, but you're doing it once, but it's like, 6 weeks or 4 weeks instead of 3 months out. That make
yeah,
sense?
but I
Yes,
don't
which
know if
we're
that's-
on the path
has
of
anything
getting
to do
them
with
done
it.
more quickly
Yeah,
now,
we're just-
yes,
Because then if we do that, we don't need to do it twice.
right.
So
Right.
you're saying
Yeah.
we make the changes in the beginning of a meeting,
One time.
we have our meeting, then she writes the minutes based on the recording, and then at that point she changes the
No.
agenda item?
It's when it's approved. It's
When
when the
it's
minutes are approved.
Yeah.
Okay, so when she
The
approves it,
minutes are
then-
never posted until they're approved.
And then that's
Oh,
when
but what about
they
the
would-
agenda?
And that's when the new.
The agenda is posted
But the agenda changes.
when it goes out to you.
Okay, but it changes is what I'm saying. That agenda changes like it did
Yeah.
today.
And that's what we're saying, is
That's
that
what
the
we're trying to
revised
say.
agenda never gets posted to the website
Right.
separately. What happens is, once the minutes are approved and posted, the revised
That
agenda
shows
is.
what was happening.
Yes.
on the-
Yeah.
Okay. Still basically hard to figure out if I'm searching for something and I'm just looking at agendas. Was it on there? Was it on there? Was it on? It shows it on there and then I spend the time to go in the minutes and realize they tabled it.
Yeah, but all you have to do is listen to the beginning of the minute when you're going over
That's
the
fair.
adoption of
Okay.
the agenda to see what
That's
got
fair.
moved around
Okay.
and what got added.
That's fair. I'm
That's true.
totally fine with that, so.
Okay.
Okay.
New option.
Okay, discussion consideration of NCDOT's new option for the N16 widening, and I talked to Bjorn via email today, and he said you have all kinds of updates.
I do. One thing is, I had sent out to you all, and it was also part of your packets, Brian Matthews from Union County had sent an email recapping the county commissioners meeting, and then also clarifying an article that was incorrect in the Inquirer Journal, okay? But then Bjorn called me and said there were a couple things he wanted to make sure that were clearly understood and decided by council at our meeting tonight. And that was, I'll preface this by saying to remember that our cross-section of NC 16 is from Newtown Road to Bonds Grove Church Road, okay? And that cross-section includes road frontage that is Village of Marvin property and county property, okay? Through a straw poll, based on some new information that was asked of us, I asked you all if you were willing to, if you wanted to go with multi-use paths instead of bike lanes, and you all
On
said
one side, right?
yes on
Yes.
one side, and
Yes.
you all said yes. What I need to make sure is two things. One, they are asking that the village council specifically makes the request of the county commissioners to say, we request that the Union County Commissioners approve the same choice that we are going for, which is to replace bike lanes with multi-use paths in our cross-section. And then two, and this is the part that's a new development, is that in our cross-section, if there is any additional cost to going from bike lanes to multi-use path, which it's expected to be minimal, if any, that we would absorb 100% of the cost for our section and Union County section, because Union County has committed to fund about $160,000 for the whole project, and they don't want to fund any more.
Wait, say that again?
Okay.
Say that one more time and say it
Okay.
slow.
If the Village of Marvin is asking for multi-use paths instead of bike lanes, and we were told that there was a very good possibility that there would be minimal, if any, additional cost to doing that.
That's the update.
Okay, if we choose that
Which puts us
option,
at around 27,000.
29,000
29.
was our sidewalk cost initially, right? Okay, if we choose this option and we ask the county commissioners to choose the same option for their land within our cross-section, we have to agree to fund 100% of any additional cost, because they are not going to put in any additional funding to cover a potential increase in cost.
For them.
Does
But
that
but
make
how
sense?
much of it is unincorporated Union County? I mean, we're
Well-
sharing it between communities, or just, there's only a,
Within our cross-section, the example he gave me, he said within our cross-section, it was mostly Marvin. But he couldn't tell me
Where the big well
exactly.
things at on that side,
Mhm.
if you guys can picture that.
Can we
All
tell
this side's all
them
ours.
That's all of ours.
Yeah.
The other side is, or that side is?
Where you can
we
change
want it
sides
on the
all
Well-
opposite side of.
And
Well, I
here's,
want it on the other side, the path, because I don't want them knocking down those walls, that'll cost us a fortune, all those, when you can chase walls, you know.
right.
And,
Well,
Yeah.
and the other problem is that we don't know at
Which
this
side?
time which side of the road they're gonna go on.
Yeah.
But essentially what they're saying is, no matter what side of the road they go on,
Sorry.
any additional cost would have to be borne by the village, because
like
the county's
easement
not.
cost?
Whether it's in the county or in the village.
Tremendous.
No, they're saying it should be minimal, because what they're doing
Is the
is,
size exactly the same?
well, they're going from an 8-foot bike lane, 4 feet on either
That
side,
exists in the right of way already?
that would exist in the right of way already, to putting a up to 10-foot multi-use path in the right of way.
And a
So it's
sidewalk
all in the right
on
of
the
way?
other side.
Right, so there's no easement cost.
Okay.
It's just the pavement cost. And it's a multi-use
on the
path
Okay.
that would be either, it would be either concrete or asphalt, although it's likely to be asphalt, because he said that would essentially be the same cost. So that's why they're estimating that there'd be minimal, if any, additional cost to doing it that way.
What was the same cost?
Taking 8 feet of asphalt bike lanes to make an 8 to 10-foot asphalt
Okay.
multi-use path.
So they're trying to take the 8 foot that they would currently be paying for,
Mm-hmm.
DOT, and stick it in our multi-use, and then it's up to us whether we want to extend it by 2 feet to make it 10 feet.
Well, I
That's our
think
cost.
I think they're saying it's not it would be up to 10 feet. They think putting a multi-use path I'm not sure why they went from 8 feet of bike lanes to 10 feet of multi-use path, but
Yeah.
they're
Because I think that's
saying,
what was being
Keep eight-
proposed.
eight-
Well, I thought
I
we
think
were
because-
using up the
and-
same amount of land
Yeah, that would've been
initially.
good.
well,
is
and
what I
they're
thought.
saying that the cost would be essentially the same, because I guess it's the difference between making a road and making a multi-use path, maybe?
But realistically, I mean, just thinking about it, if you have real bicyclists, you know, not the family on their bicycles, but the real, you know, these 50, 60 of them going at once, are they gonna be able to use a multi-use path? I mean, they're gonna want, so they're gonna still be on the road, being in danger,
That's true.
and we're gonna have a multi-use path.
And-
So why don't
someone
we
made
consider
that
just go
comment to
back
me.
to bike lanes and cover ourselves?
I mean, as far as, you know, for a safety standpoint, I mean, you know.
I don't see many
actual
people on that
cyclists.
50 mile an hour road.
And then
anyway.
some sort of transition that accesses our, that power line, which is where the loop
Yeah.
comes in.
Right,
And
right.
then, cause
Well, okay, we can't
I-
make conditions on
They can't do
our.
that, no.
they can't do that, but if there's gonna be bike lanes on both sides, there will be a point where you could do a curve
Turn
back
right.
into, you know, into where our greenway was and
Right,
stuff. So
right,
I would
right,
think that that would
yeah.
be inviting for those casual
Yeah.
bike riders. At the end of the day, if I'm bringing my family, and I have to go on that road, I'm taking the sidewalk.
Right, you're not, right.
I'm not going on the road, but then once I get to that greenway, I have access all the way,
Yeah.
or someone has access if they want to use the road.
Are we
Now-
talking 21 or 22 for this? I don't know.
2024.
24. But the problem is we still don't know exact cost.
Okay.
So here's another comment that was made, because PRG asked me a few questions, so I said to Bjorn, as long as I have you on the phone, let me
Right.
ask you some of our PRG questions. They asked the asphalt versus concrete question.
Right.
They also asked a question, they were concerned about the fact that Courtyard to Marvin had already built a sidewalk in
yep.
there, and they said that
They'll rip it up.
it's probably gonna get ripped up,
Yeah.
yes, but that we would get credit for that, because
Oh.
it's a sidewalk that we own. And
Oh,
if they
interesting.
destroy a sidewalk that we already
Right,
own
right.
as part of their road,
Including the trees?
they are required, NCDOT is required to replace it.
Yeah.
So that could save us money. PRG asked me about what's supposed to go in around Marvin Gardens, because they said there will be sidewalks in there, and
Just sidewalks.
well, right, but again, they were concerned about them being ripped up as part of this process.
Oh.
And so what Bjorn said to me is there's going to be a date, we
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
that date yet,
yeah.
at which point in time, if it was built prior to that date,
Right.
then it would become a credit to us when NCDOT rips
So
it
it all
up.
depends
But
what
if it was
gardens
after that
move
date, it might not be. But what it sounded like we really need to do is
Yeah.
not have Marvin Garden, if it's after the date, then we don't want Marvin Gardens to build that sidewalk.
Yeah, but then you don't have
But it's
nothing
not
for
in
6
right away,
years.
they could build.
Well, right, but if it got ripped, right, but if it's supposed to be along there, if it got
Yeah.
ripped up,
Right.
there wouldn't be a point in them building it just to have it ripped up.
Yeah, but you got
So-
6 years with no sidewalks. That's.
Well, right, but we don't know when that point in time is gonna be.
Well, that's-
And we have to
It
assume
might take them
that
3 more years.
Marvin
to
Gardens
solve
will be done within a year once they break
Once they
ground.
break ground.
It might be a lot close, you know, so we may be
Yeah.
good in that case. So what may happen is we may
Yeah.
get 2 credits because of 2
Right.
neighborhoods that have sidewalks along the road.
That's- yeah.
Okay, so does this mean we wanna, so I guess what I need to know is what you want to request the county commissioners to do and what we want to do.
Initially, we were, I think, trying to do what Waxaw was doing because Weddington doesn't have a plan. Waxaw does. I hate to be short-sighted and I hate to go first too, but I'm just giving my opinion. Ideally, for me, I see if there wasn't going to be much of a cost, then they're just trading one. But you guys made some good points. To the true bikers,
Right.
they're going to do that, and if they're just going to put bike lanes in, it's going to. If you're driving down in the Marvin section, you have bike lanes, and then all of a sudden you get to Waxhaw and you have nothing. So, you know, does that pair up? Are we trying to pair up with what Waxhaw's doing? Because Waxhaw would like not only a multi-use path, they would like a 12-foot multi-use path. So those bikers who are
Yeah, we
cruising
like to-
down, but they run on the roads without bike paths anyways right now.
I know, I
so-
mean, is somebody really gonna ride down Providence Road on a bike? Like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
really?
Did Waxaw commit I'm in this that part.
Waxaw had said previously that they wanted 12-foot multi-use paths on
Paths.
both sides. I
That's what
think.
33-cent tax rate does.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
To answer your question, like on Joe Carr Road where we
Well,
have.
I
a
know, but
loop-
that's Joe Carr. That's not Providence Road, especially when it gets widened. Like,
They
I mean,
ride on
it's-
Waxaw.
think of Ray Road.
but that's
Right.
Waxaw
Yeah,
Marvin
think of
Road.
Ray Road now, that's, you know, when you drive your bike down there. And
They do.
They do, I know, it's
Yes.
Saturday
I was
morning.
gonna say, I
there's
don't,
people
I don't
like
see
dangerous
people
as hell.
riding on
Yeah,
Johnston or Ray or
Right.
Providence on
Yeah.
bikes.
yeah, no, it's
not the
dangerous.
main
Ray, they
thoroughfares.
do, yeah.
So
Do
if they
But out
typically,
here,
yeah.
like out here.
So Ray, they do now, is there a bike path there? I don't think so, but,
I don't know.
but they just utilize that, but as we go forward, if you're saying the main thoroughfares don't have bike lanes, then why, if we're gonna get a similar cost, then why are we putting bike
Yeah,
lanes
I
in there?
mean,
So it goes to,
I think more people would use a multi-use path.
they would, if you wanna get a look at what it's gonna look like, just look at anything north of Ray Road,
Yeah.
going towards it, nobody uses it.
No.
And it's a 5-foot thing, but if you got, and I would strongly, if we have a decision, most of the homes are on your side,
Right.
that have it.
But I don't
But
think
we have to have a
there's
good
choice.
crossing point, and maybe
Yeah.
Newtown and Providence is that crossing point
Are
to
they
get
gonna give
onto
us
the
a choice?
multi-use lane.
His comment to me was that there are a lot of innovative ideas regarding roads, and we are not sure yet what design NCDOT will be using on that road. There's this thing called a super street that you might have
Yeah,
heard
I've
about,
heard
which
of
is
it.
like what the Ray Road widening is gonna be. It could be that, there could be lots of things.
Well,
Because I asked him about crossing points between the two sides of the road, and he said there would be crossing points, but that's what he said to me, the design, we don't even know what design of road there's gonna be yet.
Remember, you
To
got
know where
Marvin
those
Gardens
crossing
coming out
points will
100
be.
feet up the road from
Mhm.
Weddington Chase, that's really gonna be a real
And-
mess.
And it could
And
be
every
super
meeting I've been
street.
at, any of the elected officials are absolutely dead
Yeah.
set against the super roads or super streets or something like that. They do not want that, they want the
Yeah, everybody's
to
fighting
put.
that.
Yeah, we're all fighting that.
Well,
Okay, so-
I get the keep a bicycle lane practical by having them in the road where bicyclists use it. But Joe's point is valid too, so that goes for, what, a mile? Or 2 miles,
Right.
whatever the length is.
Right, right.
And it stops in
Wow.
Waxhaw, that's
Yeah.
just weird.
Yeah,
I mean, Waxhaw still may pull back out of this because if the costs get too crazy, and they've even, Steve said that to me, if it gets to the point where it becomes unaffordable, we're going to the basic, you know, whatever it is, the lane. And all you have to do, my understanding is, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, is just ask for the bike lanes. So they'll have the space there, it's just a matter if they stripe it for the bike lanes.
But I mean, this almost sounds like you're making a commitment now.
Well, we're not, I think
Because
there's
the
a,
county's gonna make a commitment now,
We're locked in.
everybody's gonna be
We're-
strong.
we're-
They want a commitment to begin the design process.
yeah, but if,
6 years.
as we told them before, if the cost is extraordinary, how can we make that decision now?
Yeah.
That there should be a point, in my understanding, there was gonna be a date where we're gonna get, as we get closer, we're gonna get finite numbers or closer, hard numbers, and we're gonna say, hey, you know what? And does it cost that much to move it to just a widened street with bike paths versus the multi-use path? I don't know.
I think I'm gonna change my mind and go back to just the sidewalks. I'm concerned how this might cost us long range. That's, you know, you guys,
But, and then put bike lanes in or no?
yeah, both bike lanes on both sides.
Okay.
And
I'm
sidewalk
concerned-
on one.
Sidewalk on both sides, just take away the
Oh, right.
the
sidewalk on both.
So you're getting sidewalks and you're striping for bike lanes.
Yeah,
So
Does
that,
that keep us at the 29,000?
That's the 29,000.
Yeah.
that's the basic one,
yeah,
yeah.
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 At least I know I got that, and we can plan for other
Yeah.
projects and stuff.
I just
right?
know Waxhaw being a big town, I'm thinking, in my opinion of one, Weddington doesn't have a plan. They're going with the cheapest because they just don't have a vision. I'm looking at it for, okay, as Waxhaw grows and stuff, I just think it becomes a little bit silly because is Weddington gonna even do bike lanes? And then we have bike lanes for 1 mile, and then if Waxhaw goes forward what they do, all of a sudden it becomes just roadway. and stuff, because they have the multi-use
Well,
plans.
you would jump on that though, right? The multi-use thing at that point, right? I would hope.
We would, I don't know if we can, is what they're saying.
Oh, okay. Huh.
Chris, they want to know this answered now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my vote. I still like the
Wait, so
idea if
what
it's
are
not
you
gonna cost.
voting?
I'm gonna vote, not that I have a tiebreaker, but I'm just gonna say my piece now. Still, multi-use path on one side and bike lane on the other, and no striped bike lanes.
So
And
sidewalk
assuming that
on one
it is
side.
gonna, yeah, assuming it is not gonna affect that $29,000 cost.
But no bike lanes,
Right.
sidewalk, multi-use path. Is that number on there, or is that still at 29?
It should be on there.
Well,
That's the 29.
no, that's the new 29.
That's the new 29.
Which
That's
could
With
be
the
more
minimal
than
32
29.
or 40.
Yeah, yeah.
Which could be more, but they
Because of
can't
the
tell us
county
that
part.
now.
But-
We'll know because of just the differential
So-
in cost.
But can we pull back and say no? That's the problem with this.
Well, to Joey's point, if we can pull back, I'll go with them. But if we can't pull back, I don't wanna commit.
I mean, if we can't pull back and they're gonna tell me it went
Yeah,
from
50
29 to 72,
Right.
we got a problem because we gotta
Right.
make that up in a very short amount of
Which
time.
we made clear to them when they came in
Yeah.
That's what I thought we did.
a few months ago.
It almost,
So
to
you-
me, it almost sounds like they're looking now for a commitment, a strong
Yeah.
commitment.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Now
guess,
we have to back out.
Can we say
Commit
we're in for
commit to the thing, no matter what the dollar cost is.
Right.
Saying, if it goes over, you're gonna pick up 100% of the price.
I wish I could do that to customers.
Well, look at this.
Are you able to go to them and say,
That
if the council would agree to if the council would agree to a multi-use path and a sidewalk, if it doesn't exceed, 20% of the $29,000 or whatever number we pick a number, but if it does, we have the opportunity to back out, because they are very concerned about cost at 5 cents, keeping the tax rate where it is. So if you presented that to them and they can say, okay, we're gonna go forward with this, and knowing that Marvin, all of a sudden the price comes in at 50% or 40%, we have that option, or we most likely would back out and say we're done because we didn't have that number before. Does that make sense?
yes, so I guess I could go to them with two options.
Mm-hmm.
The first one being,
I'll get this done.
if we can pull out at a later date, if the cost exceeds something, and if you all tell me what that number is, then the answer is right now, we want multi-use path and sidewalk with no striped bike lanes.
Yes.
However, if we can't pull out because the cost becomes too high, then we're gonna say, we're gonna stick with sidewalks on both
And
sides
bike
and
lanes.
striped bike lanes.
Yep.
That's good.
Because we can't absorb an unknown cost.
Yep.
I'm good with
And I
that.
don't wanna give them a number because I don't want them to charge me 35, might only been 30.
Well, that's why you say, hey, okay, so our max, we
Yeah.
agreed to 25% over what they quoted. If it goes to 40, we have that option. Maybe
Yeah.
things get better by that time and we say, you know what, it's worth the extra
20%, you
40%.
have to show us why it went over.
20% of 29,000 and you have to show us why it went
Yeah,
over?
that's $6,000 more.
Yeah,
You okay with 20%?
that's not bad. Yeah, we can handle that.
No.
Well, this is a process that we won't have to pay for 6 years, so we have 6 years, 5-6 years to pay for this.
Yeah.
So 6,000 is not much, so I would go up to 25, but that's just me.
Okay.
Just because a a multi-use path offers more to a community.
And Chris, let's put that in the budget for our capital improvements, so we have a line item that we'll.
I actually do have it, yes. I was using it, I did not write
Yeah,
the thing this time, but I was using it, or maybe I did. Yes, you approved it in the consent agenda. We assigned some fund balance to this.
fantastic.
So it's in the
Yeah.
assigned fund
Okay,
balance.
there you go.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
you approved that today.
Sure.
Okay.
Where do we get some official, legal thing that they're, that this is what we're doing? Because
Yeah.
since we started this, we've had about 9 different stories on what's gonna be.
Yeah, and even the emails I don't understand.
Is NCDOT running the show or is the county running the show?
NCDOT, well, that's an interesting thing, yes. All the communication that Joe and I have been getting has been from Bjorn, who is the one who came and made the presentation from the county. Well, all of a sudden Laura has been getting calls from somebody at NCDOT asking the same questions, and she came to me, and I was like, well, we're telling Bjorn, and so this guy at NCDOT asked if she would call him tomorrow and just say what council decided tonight. He was anxious to know what we were saying. He wanted to hear it from us. He didn't want to hear it through the county. He's a
So even the
staff
county
person
commissioner
on the
that was
project.
here didn't give us the right information.
Okay, so I guess you all need to make a motion to direct, or to say what you would
Perfect.
approve.
What we think we want.
Yeah.
And I guess, there's several parts to this, which is that you're first asking the county commissioners to approve the same option that we are approving. Okay, your second stating that you would want the multi-use path on one side and the sidewalk on the other with no striped bike lanes, assuming that the cost increase above the 29,000 does not exceed an extra 20%, and you have to show us why it went over. And assuming that if it does go over 20%, that we can back out and go back to the original sidewalks on both sides and bike
We have
lanes.
the option to go back out.
Right.
Because in 4 years, or 3 years that we may have found saying, okay, they came out with that hard number and they say it's gonna be, instead of 29,000, it's gonna be 38. And that's beyond the 20%, and we're like, you know what? The whole big picture thing, it's worth it to do it, and then, but we have to have, at some point, there has to be some hard numbers where we, I mean, for them to expect us to commit to this is unacceptable from that standpoint. So we just want an option to back out.
Okay, right. And if we cannot get an option to back out at some later date, then we want sidewalks on both sides with striped bike lanes on both
Good.
sides.
That's right.
At the original
moved.
29,000. And further, sorry, there's one more thing that you have to state, that if you get the option to back out and do the multi-use path on one side and sidewalk on the other side, that you agree to pay for the entire cross-section, not just the cross-section that is Village of Marvin, but you agree to also pay for the Union County portion of that cross-section.
Which we were told was minimal.
Right, which is not a big, but that would be
Paid.
incorporated into the 20%
yeah.
over
There's
29,000.
as much Union County as there is Multnomah.
Yes, if it's
There
part
is,
of the.
Yes, it would be part of the 20%.
So
Yes.
And even some on your side is still Union County.
Yeah, so they decide to move it.
Yeah.
I know
Can you
that's
make
a
the
lot,
motion?
but
But then, hold
That
on,
was the-
but,
Read all that?
yeah.
Good.
That's staff
Lost my
recommendation.
train.
Good.
I changed brain. Where was I?
So-
No, that's good. So moved.
I know, it's funny.
All in favor?
so you moved, and does
Okay.
everybody?
All right,
Further
so-
discussion?
So who's,
Yeah.
who's moving?
Further discussion?
Me or Ron, we both
Yeah.
moved.
So moved.
Yeah.
So moved.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Yeah, I just,
All right, Chris, you'll have to help.
it
with
it
that one.
is, and it's
Well, Marty, I'll
unfortunate.
help you with that.
Yeah, you'll have to help me with that
Okay.
one.
Next up,
We're gonna have to cut back the walls.
Oh, here, here's, y'all wanna send this around and sign?
the only other thing is as I'm thinking about this, not to get off the subject that quick, but I'm assuming they mean buildable, because when it comes to maintaining, they've always said, we don't have a program for that. We're gonna have to contract to you, so that's where I was concerned when they're saying we take on the cost. Does that mean the maintaining cost too?
Oh, yeah, that's part of it anyway. The sidewalks, no matter what we do, once they build it, we have to maintain it. That's always been part of the.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't have a way to do it. They were going to contract out to us or to Waxaw to do their part because they don't have a group that did. That's the way it was explained to me.
Okay.
Well, he's right. We're agreeing to this.
Yeah, we'll put it under our contract when.
If we don't bring it up, we never
Our
agree to
maintenance
it.
contract.
I mean, if it's not part of the discussion right now, it would be a later discussion.
But that's why I was specifically wanted to be about the
Okay.
buildable part of it. That we were taking that on, but when it comes to the maintenance part of it,
Oh, the
it
maintenance
is
part for
it is
somewhere.
unincorporated Union County, how could it be us?
They need to pay their percentage.
Yeah, no, I remember you're saying that they said that we had to take care of it.
And that's where he
Yeah.
came in with that,
That's
he didn't want to
so
pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember somewhere somebody said that.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one.
Oh, okay. So next up is 8I, and that's regarding the minutes. So if we go back to the minutes, I just wanted to do a couple quick September. Did you have something on 8/31?
Yeah, I just want to know, where are like our policies? Like P and then a whole bunch of numbers for policies. Like I've got a rules and
Yeah.
procedures, I've got an ordinances, but I haven't
A
seen.
policy, we
Like
have,
policy.
I
Federal
have,
book of policies, yeah.
there is a policy book that is, a combination of, I mean, I have the hard copy.
I mean, is that something that I can look at?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
she should know.
Yes.
Cause
They're on our V drive under policies. I don't know that my policy book is the most up to date. I'd have to look at it.
I was reading
Would
some of
you-
the stuff and I'm like, I was like, policies, like,
Okay.
is that in our rules and procedures? Cause that's rules and procedures,
No,
not
those are
policies.
actual policies that
Okay.
council has adopted, and I can,
I
if
would-
you get in touch with me,
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
That was my only.
Okay, and the only thing I had on 8/31, and I pointed out to Barbie, and it just may have been a misprint and stuff, but if you noticed 8/31, 105, they both were the same. Did we identify that one side can be struck because there's no difference? This is the same as this.
Oh, that's just probably,
It was a print
I don't have
problem?
one, it could have been a print problem. Oh, yeah, just, yeah.
Okay, I just
It's
wanted to
where,
make clear.
I think it's just where the page got, there was two copies of the same thing.
Okay, but then I go to 8/31, page 2 of 5, so for some reason 2 didn't go on here. I didn't know if you all got that or not, but I caught that. Okay, moving on
The
to
copy
September
originals is
20th,
first things.
I have page 3 of 11, if you can go to that. I just had a question of what this meant. And it's administrative report, Rescue stated there was a meeting with Marvin Gardens where they requested clarification with regard to the design review board process and review period. She said she would like to add a few additional initials so they felt more secure about the process. What does that, does someone remember what that meant? Right here.
Few additional insights?
I don't know,
I think that
because
was it.
I don't know, let me go get the, let me go.
Probably few additional
Yeah, sounds like, I remember they were concerned about it was gonna be delayed, and she talked with them, and when she was done, they were fine with moving forward, that, you know.
they felt so, but it wasn't
Insights.
initials though, that doesn't.
I think it was insights.
I think it was
Insights,
Yeah.
few additional insights,
Yeah.
so change it to insights?
Yeah, I think that would be it, yeah.
Probably would
So
be.
they felt, or, yeah, because I think she was trying to get them comfortable with.
Yeah, then we're not gonna drag this on for 3 years.
Okay, so change initials on page 3 of 11 to insights. You have 3 of 11 there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Page 10 of 11, real quick.
What page?
10 of 11 on that. If you go down to below the motion, the second
Hold on,
paragraph.
Let me get there. Let me get
Okay.
there.
Sorry, trying to blow through this real quick.
I understand. Okay. And where?
Okay, so you see the motion and the vote, and then it says Councilman Epps. The next thing, Mayor Polino asked for a motion for some sort of public celebration. I think that meant to be hearing instead of celebration before breaking ground. And she said it was permitted in our district. It was permitted. That there had to be some sort. I was questioning if there needed to be a public hearing, not a public celebration. I don't think I said celebration. Is that fair?
Yeah, you gotta keep your clothes on when you run around.
I had plans to celebrate, so that's correcting the record.
could you have meant like a ribbon cutting?
I think that's what we were
Could
talking
you have
about.
been referring truly to a ribbon cutting ceremony with a big
But
cake and a big pair of
Mrs. Scoot
scissors?
said
Yeah,
it
I
was
think that's
permitted
what it
in the R district because there was not a zoning change, so no public hearing had been required.
No,
It was hearing, I'm pretty sure, they just got that wrong. Okay, want to be known as.
I'm all for ribbon cutting.
Or celebration. Yeah.
And then the only thing I had on the last page, 11 of 11, let Miss Scoot know if anything odd was going on at Belgrove or Winmore. What is that? What does that even mean? What was going on? I mean, could they be more specific? That was in the review action items. And then the last one,
Oh,
5,
is that the
sheriff's.
We're talking about concrete being dumped?
Mm-mm.
No?
Okay, and all we had for the review action items for number 5 is the sheriff's and the light. Okay, so we were gonna talk to them about getting a light, I assume?
Probably
So-
that light that's up.
Yes,
Yeah.
getting the
And that's
portable light
fine.
tower.
Okay, so the sheriff's and getting a portable light, maybe add that to clarify that. But whatever that odd thing was, I don't
And that's probably the V.
I don't
drive and not
recall
the
that
V
or
drive.
remember
We'll
that.
listen to the tape.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a B drive.
But
Yeah, you're right.
if you were able to listen to the tape and look at that, that's fine. But I'm okay with the rest of those on that one. And then October 10th meeting, page 2 of 12. I show 4th paragraph down. He asked Councilman Apps to check Mr. Twitter feed during the interview.
Which
And
one?
it's the last sentence. Then he asked why he, no one else, just to eliminate he there.
On what page?
Page
2.
2 of 12. 1, 2,
Eliminate.
3, 4th paragraph down, last
said?
sentence. Then he asked why no one else was interviewed. Just to eliminate he.
Yeah.
I know
Then-
Lanny was a
It was
stickler for
probably he
these.
then asked, instead of he then asked. Or instead of
He
then.
then asked why he, no one else was in. It doesn't.
Yeah,
Just that
yeah.
he's, no, shouldn't be that.
Right.
Yeah.
So just remove the he.
Yeah. that's it.
Okay. And then on the next page, 3 of 12, Joe Plainer of 1250 spoke. He said it was unfortunate election officials continued accusation about the mayor. He said occasionally council heard that in public comments, which the council in the past did not respond to. So they just insert in the past.
Where's there? Where are
Right
you
on
at?
the 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph where it's my bold
Council
writing,
in the past.
Joe Polino. It's in the second sentence.
I got her.
Council in the,
In the
Council
past.
in the past did not respond to. But it gave an offer, okay. And that's all, wait a minute, 7 of 12 is the last one. I know I didn't make this motion and I know they get things wrong. So there's a motion right on number 4. Made a motion to recommend approval of the conditional use permit, one following suggested condition. And maybe I did. I don't remember reading all of that and doing that, but I did not have time to check the minutes on that.
Which permit is this? Because they've been recorded, so it'll be in the permit.
17-11.
107.
well,
Yeah,
she's got the minutes as to,
So,
Oh.
106, yes, the
where it
timestamp.
is,
So can you just
timestamp.
confirm that? If you guys are okay, we can approve that based on confirming that was me in my motion. So, does that make sense? Okay, that's all I have. And then, so I'll need a motion to approve the minutes that were on the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up is Robert. We pulled that. Just a quick question on Legion Fields, and I don't know if this even relates to it. So if it doesn't, just tell me, and then we can ask about it. When you start construction, I know when I started construction in my house, I had to put up screen erosion fencing on the thing. So I know there's construction going on there. Has that been done, or does that need to be done now, or is it something that?
If you look past the detention pond, there's silt fence all around that way.
Okay.
And then the detention pond is where the water runoff goes, and there's a Faircloth skimmer inside. So I don't know if you can see from the road, there's a white thing in the middle of the detention pond.
Okay.
During construction, you choke off your water detention pipe, you put a Faircloth skimmer in, which is this device that allows the water to feed from the top of the pond.
And doesn't
So
allow
the
the
silt goes down,
right.
the clean water.
Water goes
supposedly
out. Yes.
Goes out.
Somewhat filtered, if you will.
That's the erosion control.
Okay, so that's what they had put in there. that's all I had, and it was an opportunity to ask, so I am good on reducing the bond. I think you guys all looked at it, you had the AMT go out and confirm everything else was done appropriately, so make a motion to, if nobody else has any questions, I assume, council.
Recuse yourself though from this.
Yeah, I need to recuse myself.
Okay.
And then
so-
y'all vote on his request to recuse.
Okay,
So do I make the motion to
Yes.
recuse myself? So I make a motion to recuse myself from reduction of the Elysian Field subdivision bond for water sewer improvements because I have a conflict.
Yes.
okay, further discussion, all's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and now we'll make a motion,
To reduce
To-
the Elysian Field subdivision bond for water and sewer improvements.
okay, further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks for, I just clarifying that, because I didn't see it, and I know I had done it.
And can I just indicate something, just so you all know, so that's a cash bond, we actually have that cash, and so we'll be writing a check back to Robert for the portion that it was reduced. And, that's always been noted at the bottom in the treasury report, when I show you the cash balances, I always indicate, because we have several cash bonds, and I always indicate there's a portion that isn't available, and this will change that
Take care of
number.
that.
Okay,
Okay, I got a challenge. We got 5 things real quick, so let's see if we can zoom through these.
I'm all for it. Discussion consideration of standard for sports clinics in Marvin, Eford Park. You guys have that information?
Yeah, you guys had asked me to go back to PRG with
Yep.
trying to tighten up and get some more parameters on that, so here you go. Everybody's had it. Anybody got any questions?
How is this scheduled and how is preference given? I'm concerned in terms of, potential claims, oh, you let this person make money.
First come, first serve.
Okay, I
Essentially.
think that needs to be in a policy somewhere, and maybe there's a calendar schedule so people can see, okay, Mondays at 5:30.
Derek schedules it, right?
It comes into Nancy, actually.
Okay.
Nancy keeps the calendar on her desk, and people submit written requests
Okay,
with
so there is
dates.
that, okay.
So there's a record of them, and they have to then also pay, we have to make sure they have like a paid pass or whatever, and so we have records of what time.
How far out can they go? Can I say I want every Monday night for the next 2 years?
Oh, yeah. good point.
Does this say that in here?
That's why we hired you.
This says that,
Maybe it should be a 60-day.
well, if you look at the third bullet, I think there's a word missing at the end, not on a recurring basis, because it says, subject to a one-time approval on a case-by-case basis, not on a recurring basis, so that would be those kinds of things.
So like every 3 months they have to reapply or something like that?
Right, that would be a good addition to this. Here, it says it at the bottom. Oh no, that's just on a seasonal basis. I think maybe that's what he was intending to do.
If they better get around that out.
Right, so what would you all like to add? The individual
Applicant must
activities
reapply.
Yeah, must reply every 3 months.
every 3 months.
And it's first come, first served.
So that's the
Yeah.
first come, first served.
Okay.
We also want them to sign the release and indemnification and hold harmless agreement.
Well, right, and I have written down insurance as well. I think that's part of our normal policy, our normal park policies, but we can add that to this.
So
Should we
then-
give preferential treatment to people, clubs in Marvin?
Well,
I think we
since
should.
we do first come, first serve, that's hard. So if a non-Marvin person had a reservation, are you gonna kick them out when a Marvin person?
No, but if I have a
comes in?
choice between him and somebody who's not Marvin, I would take him. That's all.
Might as well put it in writing rather than.
You know what I mean?
So we should add the
Priority.
indemnification and insurance requirements to this policy
Mhm.
that are part of our normal park policies anyway.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
So like priority may be given to a resident over
Yeah.
non-resident
Is that okay,
in the
Ron?
case of
Because this
conflict.
may get really big. You might
Yeah,
have
you
like.
didn't,
Okay.
because there's no federal funds or grants that
No,
goes for the
we were real
park.
clear on that one.
Yeah.
It's a private park.
Yeah, then you're.
Yeah.
So priority given to resident
first served.
Designated for this kind of stuff?
If it's a Marvin
Yeah.
resident, they get it.
Leave it up.
I mean, what happens to the first come, first served?
I guess if there's
First come,
two at
first
the
served
same
anymore.
time,
People wanna walk around.
if there's two at the same time,
likely never gonna
can it be at the discretion of the park manager or
That's where-
priority?
How about a right of refusal?
I don't think you can
I think we're gonna
actually
have to
do
see
that
how
I was
it
gonna
goes.
legally,
say-
can
It's
you?
our adjustments.
Because you're not gonna kick
You
somebody
can
off if
get,
we've
like,
already
a
approved
lot of
them.
towns have
New York
schedules and
parks
fees
where
for
they
residents and
reserve-
schedules and
we-
fees for
Yeah,
non-residents.
we do have
that.
Yeah.
Our fees, yes, we do have that.
Yeah,
We
but then
don't
typically,
Rent it on a, we don't rent the park on a case-by-case basis. What happens is these organizations buy a professional access pass for a year, and that entitles them to use our park anytime they ask for it.
and all of their participants to use it too.
See,
And
that's
there's
what
how
I'm
much money
saying, I
are
don't
they
think you
making?
can do
Sometimes
that.
say,
Yeah.
get a portion of the
Yeah.
fees back too.
Yeah, see, that may be something that
See,
we
I don't- I
ask.
don't
for
Yeah,
some
opening
sort of-
this up and maybe different.
I mean, yeah, cause like if you go, for example, I've looked often at the Matthews Sportsplex.
Right.
I mean, they have rental fees that are a per hour basis, and I believe the last time I looked, it's $42.50 an hour to rent a
Wow.
field out there.
Right.
But they're practicing and they're
Yeah.
doing things.
For
We're
anybody
just
who
gonna-
wants to rent the field, right,
Right.
but I mean, it's sort of like what these guys are
Yeah,
doing, I mean, if they're holding a clinic that's an
Right.
hour
Right.
long,
And they're charging you 30
All
bucks
their-
a kid.
all they're paying us is $100
Yeah,
the
for the
year.
year.
for the year, and they can come out there and use our
Plus-
park,
plus,
because
yeah.
right now, that's what our fees are.
Plus, I think we need designated fields or whatever that they can use, not,
So we should have certain
There should
areas,
be
to
certain
Nate's point, it
areas.
should be all over the park.
yeah, I mean,
Shouldn't be up to,
Is there
neighbors,
parks
you know
and
what I
rec
mean?
can
So
do it?
designate locations, and
Just-
should we propose a change in the fees? Do you want to do
I
that?
certainly would if
How
there's.
popular
you
is
got-
it right
It's
now?
getting more
They're-
popular.
Everybody's
We have
looking
It's
for
getting more
fields,
popular,
you
so
know,
it's
they're
not-
always
Yeah.
looking
We're all
for.
Yeah.
You have to look at them anyway,
There's
because
not
you
a lot
got to
of
add.
people do.
Not a whole lot of options.
Right.
Might as well look
Yeah.
at them.
And then we change the fees, those that have already paid the fee, do we give them notice that the fees are changing?
Well, I think we probably have to grandfather
Grandfather
in
them
anybody who's
in.
on the calendar as of a
Yeah.
certain date.
Whenever that one expires, that's it, new
Right.
fees.
To your
Yeah.
point, they'll probably have 10 kids making $30 a kid. That's about what you pay for, or double that, but you're getting
Does
babysitting
it-
fees.
Find it online.
Does it open us up to any additional liability if
Well,
we
we
rent
need
them
to-
on a case by case,
They're
an
not
hour
a-
by hour basis?
They're not employees,
No.
so, I mean, they're,
They have to sign some sort of waiver that
Right,
if
they're
they get
independent,
hit
yeah.
or hurt
Right,
on the
right.
field,
We ha-
that we
And we
don't have.
require them to have insurance.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different scenarios where there could be problems and
Right.
not. And
Someone
also,
gets
we
hurt
don't
on
do, anyone can do it, right? There's no background checks or anything like
Mhm.
that we do, so
Mhm.
I don't know.
And then we hit the news as the
Right,
village that allowed.
but they knew or should have known a
Well,
sex
I-
offender was teaching kids soccer at this
God.
thing, yeah.
Well, we could just say no too.
Those always been a financer. This all started because of that one clinic.
Well,
Sure.
it's not just that one. I mean, we have multiple people. We have yoga class, or I mean, there's been multiple things over the past
Dog
year or two.
trainers, all
The
sorts
dog
of
trainers.
Doctor.
Pictures, a lot of pictures.
Yeah,
photographers.
photographers come and do pictures and
I mean,
things.
that's all the professional access pass that we started, but again, they pay, I think it's $100 for the year. and they
Okay,
pay
so
both
let's send it back to
insurance
the board and ask them to relook at the fee schedule.
And then my question, the only question I had, everyone else covered all the good points, is the examples of appropriate sports. Do we need to get specific? I mean,
And that's up to you all.
no, yeah, you wouldn't want the high school football team out there practicing.
right.
one. Well, I think we said as
Or the
far as
ladies'
league
field
and
hockey.
school teams, they're not allowed to. We were very specific there.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I like, subject to one-time approval by park manager. Is that like, we're giving him some power, you know what I mean, over, and
Yeah, I'm
then
not
people
sure.
come back and say, Derek did this, then he didn't do it for Nick. I
Right.
don't want
We
to
don't
put him in
I
that
think that
position,
should
you know what I
be
mean? I
council
don't
specific.
want to
Take
get
that
him in that
off,
position
okay.
where he's,
I don't
you know,
think
being
that should
attacked.
be.
Okay,
We
Yeah.
can do
Derek's
that,
decision.
yes.
Yeah,
so no activities for league or school teams,
right, yeah.
okay? No structured competitions.
So cornhole tournaments are not, are an appropriate competition? I've never been to a cornhole.
Oh, they're fun.
We'll see, and I will say
Like that.
what concerned
Can
me,
that
for
get
example,
crazy?
about Ultimate Frisbee is I know there's a local Ultimate Frisbee club trying to find a field and they don't have insurance, which is why they can't find a field. So we have to really be careful about our insurance.
So do we need to say insurance certificate?
Well, that's
or-
what
Yeah.
we were saying,
Oh.
we need to add that.
I mean, yeah, to your point, someone could get hurt as they're on the clinic because of a rock that happened to be on the thing, and they say, well, that's not our fault, that's the park's
Right.
fault, and then now we're liable.
Okay.
And like I said, you want a designated field, so.
A designated location.
Like I said, you get an ultimate frisbee thing and they're out there tossing like crazy, you got some
Yeah.
couple walking with their kid and somebody goes running up the frisbee and smashes into them.
So, I mean, another municipality that has parks that I know rents them out by the hour is Waxhaw. I mean, we can look at Waxhaw and see what
Schedule.
kind of,
Yeah.
that'd be
schedule
good.
they have for their, since they're
Well,
local to us.
Stallings-
Because remember, we're new at
Stallings
this,
too,
making money
okay.
on
Well,
parks.
that, do that too, Chris, and then also find out like what their policy is for what they can have.
Right, okay, so
Both-
look at
both
fees
places.
and policy for
Yeah.
Waxhaw Stallings,
Yeah.
okay? Are
I
there,
have Sally's.
you have them, okay.
If it gets overly complicated, I think Joe, no is not always a bad answer.
Okay.
Just because liability anyway. But,
Okay.
all right, we good?
Mhm.
You got direction, you don't need a motion. Next up, 9B, discussion and consideration, and feel free, I mean, we can add this to the, if you want to clean this up and get to, because we got design review board, we can table these to a work session, being that we're now at 10 to
I'd be okay with,
I don't see anything on here, sorry.
Trail
Oh,
standards?
we have trail
Oh,
standards
it's right
to pass
here.
out.
It's right here.
Sorry.
Okay, I didn't have anything for
Sorry,
trail
it's
standards.
right here.
Sorry.
No, you didn't have it, so
It was a
you
late
should have it
Oh,
now.
we have it now.
Yeah,
Anyway.
you didn't have it when the
Yeah,
agenda
you
went
wanna
out.
table it, Joe?
I'm
Well,
asking you, don't put it into
We
the
pass
board.
it out to look at, for you all to take a look
Yeah.
at, and then you
I-
can discuss it
I
next
need to say
time.
one thing, sorry.
Absolutely.
Derek had the.
Go under unfinished business, if you say something about it.
Do what?
It'll go under unfinished business if you say something about it, so if
Okay,
I say
well-
something about it, we're gonna open up.
Sorry,
All right, discussions, consideration of trail standards.
it'll be quick and then we can put the rest under unfinished business. Derek had them do a shovel test at Amber Meadows. They have come up with a price of like, what was it, $17,000. So Robert, we had originally talked that you and I and Derek would go talk to Pulte. Once we had that number, do you still wanna do that and try to get them to pay for it, pay for half of it? We'll just suck it up and pay for it?
I think we ask and then bite our tongues and see what they say
Okay.
next.
And then we can bring it back at the work session meeting, so
Okay.
that's a good starting point, given that
Okay.
we
Is
were
that
hit with that.
17 based on one of these appendixes?
No.
No, it's based on Blue Ridge Trails, who did the Tullamore Trail,
Yeah.
giving us an estimate.
Still
But,
not
but
good
you guys also
compromise.
wanted a standardization of trails, like in writing, so this is what this is, but I knew that that had come up, so I
Okay.
figured this would be the best place to bring
Is
it
the
up.
trail still based on what Pulte originally agreed to? Remember that lady came in and did a presentation?
We found, when we researched it, there was very little. It basically said they will build a natural trail, which was the whole reason we got to these standards.
Yep,
And
This is what a natural.
Right.
and yeah. And
That's
these-
not a natural
So
trail.
before that meeting, do you and Eric want to
Yeah,
talk
they
about,
gave-
remember that lady presented
I-
piggyback in the sewer easement?
I wasn't here.
Oh, it was Kathy.
Kathy Hitchcock.
Hitchcock.
Oh, that lady.
Yeah, she wanted us to piggyback sewer easement or,
I think that's a
And utility
different,
easement.
I think
That's a
that's a
different
different
development.
phase.
I think that's like phase 3 for Tullamore.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
another phase in Tullamore.
And we're
Yeah,
talking about
that
the
was
Amber
right.
Meadows.
We're talking about Amber Meadows that will eventually connect to
I thought
Tullamore.
they were connected. No, I thought
No,
that's what she was
They
talking
I-
kind
I've
of want
walked
to
it.
connect, but
A
I don't know
natural
if they
trail,
actually
I
can,
would-
because there's some,
Would we all agree a natural trail, if you get, when you go to present to them, if you're gonna talk to Tullamore, a natural trail is something you could walk on.
yeah, and that one you
You
can.
cannot walk on
And not get hurt.
Right.
and not get hurt.
Actually,
That's where
can
you
I-
start.
Oh,
with the
so are you
negotiations.
going to, you and Derek and Robert will
Yes.
schedule that meeting?
And then table
Okay.
this,
Yeah.
to be discussed.
3/28.
Yeah.
And we can get into the more of the standards, and we
And
all
that's fine,
have this,
I
so
just-
keep this if you
I
guys
knew
would.
that had been discussed, and I wanted to get that so we could at least get that in motion so that
Yep.
we can get Amber Meadows taken care of.
Well, can I add one more thing to this? The only after, and I did review this, but I had a thought afterwards, which was one more thing we wanna do, even when we have these standards, which this doesn't say, is to say specifically that the council or somebody here, planner, council, someone, has to approve the plan before they construct the trail, and that we have
after.
to approve it afterwards
Yes.
to make sure it was constructed to our
Yes.
standard. Would that be part of this
Yes.
this standardization
I think so.
policy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there's not gonna be many more developments that will
Well-
attach that to, but maybe,
Yeah, I think most of them are just gonna pay fee and move.
Okay.
all right. Move that, table that. So looking at tabling, discussion, considerate Boy Scout project of signs, is that a big pressing issue
I
that
thought
we
we
can?
approved that when we first came through the first time.
Yeah,
and
you
then
guys,
I turned it
guys
in.
all, that's what you guys said, so I took it back to PRG, and they, from what I can understand, they didn't think that it would really do anything for,
I thought they approved it.
no. They did not,
I thought they did.
they did not.
When they came in, because we asked them that, we said it normally goes through the Parks and Greenway.
Yeah, so you guys sent it back to them to approve it, and they didn't approve it, from what I can understand.
For what reason? They just didn't feel,
They didn't feel like
Boy
it
Scouts.
fit.
It
Wanted to
didn't
do, right?
fit, and I think there were too many, the other thing I heard is that there were maybe too many, restrictions on what the person doing the project wanted to actually do compared to maybe what we'd wanna see. Like, it was like, well, I'll make 3 signs for you or something.
what kind of signs are we talking about?
I think
These
it
were
was
those
those wood
wood-
signs where it routes out the bridge, or, names.
Names of trails, so you're walking on.
Okay,
a
or how
trail.
far
Right now-
you've walked.
Now we have a now we have a tuna can, and red can.
Well, I'm thinking is like you see on a trail, it's like, okay, you walk 0.3 miles or 0.5
Yeah,
miles and
yeah.
stuff, and those are little signs. That's a great project
Yeah.
for them, that we could get some sort of standardization for something, if that's what, or if we're identifying something that's unique along the
He
trail.
was proposing.
Right,
Okay.
from what I,
Yeah.
But
What
you
he
can maybe
showed us.
recommend it to him then, if he's willing.
yeah, but I don't know, I think that's what the problem
Do
is.
we put it back
Yeah,
on the Boy Scouts and say, come to us with some ideas
Well, I
of what
think that's
we
what
want?
Pete, isn't that what PRG
I
did?
think, I wasn't at that meeting, so I'm just getting the secondhand.
Yeah, I was under the impression that they made some suggestions of what they'd rather see and that it wasn't, received.
Mm.
So
they
what
really-
Because I
they'd
think
rather
they
see
think
is
they got
not coming
approval
back to
here.
us though.
Is
So
my
right-
view
so-
of
they
their
told-
opinion.
So what
They
they'd
have-
rather
they
see is not coming back to us. We don't know what that is, right?
Say that
Well,
again?
no, they
Yeah,
made the
okay.
suggestion to the Boy Scout and the Boy Scout didn't want to do what they suggested is what I was told.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's
But
why
they
it
may
didn't
think,
come back.
they may, I don't wanna speak for them, I don't know, but they may think y'all approved it
I kind of thought we
already,
did.
so then why is someone
I
else
thought we
changing
did
their
too,
mind?
guys.
I don't know.
I assume we did too, but I don't know. We'd have to go back and look
Yeah, I was
at.
gonna say, why don't we go back
And
and
then,
listen to
and the
that?
Boy Scouts thinking, what the hell, they said yes, and they go back to this group and they
Well,
tell me to do
if
something.
we can
When would
confirm
they
and look
have-
on the
Which
agenda.
council meeting would they have done that?
Said it
Well-
was in January.
Yeah, it's the first meeting. wasn't it?
Right, but then it would have been the next PRG meeting, so we should have a recording of
Oh,
that
yeah, that was
PRG
January, so
meeting.
yeah, we didn't have.
So-
Check on
Check
that to
on
see,
the-
first, did we approve it, and if
Yeah,
not, what did
Was that at the January
Where we
9th
left it
meeting?
at.
No, that was
Your
the,
January 9th meeting,
No.
or was this an old meeting?
no, that was the December meeting.
Did we
Was it
approve,
December
did
maybe?
we approve it
Yeah,
contingent
it
on
was
going
crowded.
back to the PRG and getting
I
their?
don't
We
remember
made-
that.
we made
Okay,
a
it's
suggestion
December
to
12th
the
meeting?
PRG.
Yes.
You guys sent it, we
There's
sent
no-
it back to PRG.
Oh, well
'Cause-
then,
I think we approved the project, but sent back, we weren't sure what kind of signs PRG.
The details.
The details.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They apparently,
Didn't like it at all.
yeah,
Okay.
All
that's
right.
what I was told, I wasn't at that meeting, so.
I think a good table discussion, since planning board will be at that, is discussion consideration design review board. I looked at that and that's pretty,
Yep.
pretty involved. So given the time,
so
you
what are
wanna
we
table that?
tabling? What are we tabling?
The
ED.
9D, discussion consideration design review board. Standardization of trail, division
We
of that,
tabled the trail.
and the trails,
Or moving the trail, yeah.
and then,
Is this one just to find out if we're there? You wanna be there?
what's that? Yeah, that's all I'm
Confirm
asking,
attendance.
because I think there was some
I was
discrepancies.
confused because it landed, I think, on a Wednesday.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, we moved it
Yeah.
up one
Yes.
day.
Barbie clarified, I'm good.
And Nick, you're still good with that? Is that tough for you?
I mean, it's gonna be tough.
Is there something, because as we get into the next week, we're in spring break.
Yeah.
So can we
I think I'm flexible
I am too.
going forward. I'd rather not get into spring break, because the girls will be home. But I'm open.
Oh, you mean having it when?
You mean like the
No.
26th, 27th?
Yeah, before
March.
the 28th,
Yeah, March.
but after the 28th
Yes.
is when we get into spring
Yeah.
break.
Right.
30th.
That's the reason
So
we didn't do
is
it
any
the
other
29th.
day, Nick, have you looked to see like the
26th.
Tuesday?
26th is best for me. I mean,
What's that day?
That's
Monday.
Monday.
That's a Monday.
Yeah, I think I can make Monday.
I'm fine Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
I can make Thursday.
Let me see, Monday night, what time?
Planning board.
We don't know
But you
about
got,
planning
you got.
board.
When do they
You got
typically
the planning board. so
Well,
they're the
we
ones
I know,
already
that's
put
the
this
thing.
on their agenda,
The
on their
Yeah.
meeting schedule.
That-
We're
They
more
adopted their-
flexible.
You know, I mean, let's give them 2 dates. How about the 26th and 27th? And leave those open.
And let-
And see, let them decide
Can
and
you
then
do the
just ask for a
27th
straw
then?
poll on who can make that.
Hang on, can you do the
I
27th?
can't do 27th.
Okay,
Okay, so 26th.
yeah, and I
You said
will,
No
I
27th?
can't do 27th.
I think I got something going on that day too.
and I just will cut out of my meeting at, which is fine, I can do that and be here by 6 on the 26th. So see if they can do it, and then,
26th.
yeah, and if not, what's the option? If they can't, then we go back to, since this has been on it,
Yeah.
and Nick, you just, I mean, you wanna,
I mean, I would like to be here if I
no, I understand.
can.
If you need to push it the other way and I can't be there, I mean, I don't wanna hold everyone up.
Oh, well, I want everyone
That
there.
following week, it's not, I'd rather do it this week somewhere.
Unless we,
26, I'm fine with.
unless we move it to the
10th.
10th to
We
prior
have
to
a
the
budget
council,
work
make it
session.
10th of what?
one our council meeting and do it as a joint.
Oh,
There's a budget
Yeah.
work session at 5:30
And then a council
that day.
meeting that we haven't put on the,
but
anything
if we
on
look at
that
the way the
agenda
budget's
yet.
going, we probably can use a half hour, you know what I mean, on that? You know what I mean, the way, we got that down pretty good now, I think.
that's our next one, right?
Chris has that down.
Yeah, not
Well,
you.
We're not making many
So,
changes.
call for it at 6 o'clock
Yeah.
and then, but then that's only half an hour with them and that just flows right into the council meeting?
But the council meeting could be focused around this, right? Hopefully-
Yeah, because we haven't set an agenda for that
There
yet.
you go.
You just need to
What are we
tell me
talking
what,
about?
if you need me and what time.
So
On
then-
April
'Cause
10th.
something like that you wouldn't, but if there's other
So,
items.
so then are we not gonna have a meeting at the end of March? If we move it?
Let me ask you this, what are you all thinking as far, are we talking about a big agenda? Are we talking about a little agenda? You know, are we just talking about kind of this area
Well, for what?
For the joint
for the
meeting.
joint meeting?
I don't know what is even on that agenda. We just normally like to have meetings with, I think we had one scheduled for the
I just
PRG
thought
and
about
planning
the fact
board.
when people can meet, if it's just a small agenda, well, there's more
Yeah.
flexibility.
And I don't really know what, if they have more things, I just know these boards sometimes have their own agenda. And if we were open to what they want to talk about, I'm fine with it
Right,
because they're, again, a recommending board and it's an opportunity to sit down with them and see what they,
What time
what
are
their
we
issues.
supposed to be on the 28th?
6.
6.
Would you meet later?
No, I'm saying unfortunately, I gotta be out by 10 to 7, so I mean, I got 50 minutes.
So the work session for that was planned on that time or was that in the morning?
No,
it,
that
this
was it.
was in.
We were in
That was in
lieu of it,
lieu of
okay,
that.
because that's automatically
Moved it from
showing up,
Thursday to
but it's still at
Wednesday.
6 o'clock instead of the morning.
Let's shoot for that first Monday. I got a 4 o'clock appointment with the doctor on the 10th, so,
So the 26th?
on the 10th, so, when Nick can make it, when can he make it?
The 26th.
Yeah, let's just see if we can get them then, if not, let's reschedule.
At what time?
Another month down the line, you know what I mean, we don't have to do it right now.
6 o'clock is fine, or 7 if it works better for everyone else.
Yeah.
Alright, so, okay, so if they can't do the 26th, since we don't have a work session in April, then why don't we schedule it later, like at the end of the month?
In end of April and put it on like the 26th.
Yeah.
In the end of April.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
since we only have
That's
one
fine.
meeting in
Is
April.
that okay? That's the,
That's fine.
that's
Do you guys
the
just wanna go ahead
alternate.
and do that?
Yes.
Well,
So,
but they might meet on it, they might be okay on the 26th.
yeah, if they're okay on the 26th, we go with that. If they can't, then we're saying we're rescheduling
April
the
what?
Give her some
existing
dates.
meeting, and they got
The
26th of
either
April,
one.
which is
It's
plenty
either
of
March or
time to
April.
plan that.
Okay, and what day of the week
Yeah.
is that?
So that's a Thursday.
April. Thursday.
At 6
So-
or at 6
6 or
a.m.
7.
Ideally, yeah, 6.
Yeah, but it won't be in the morning.
Yeah.
Right.
Ideally, Monday,
Yeah.
March
Okay.
Okay.
26th. If not, let them know
Okay.
that because of scheduling issues.
So then a question, are you all still gonna have your meeting at all on March 28th or not at all? Everything that you've talked about pushing to the March 28th, will you now have on the 26th?
Well,
or they
that's,
can do that?
it's all tabled, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
right, but as
Yeah.
far as, we're
Right,
just
we're
having
not gonna
one
have two
meeting.
meetings that week.
So
Okay.
then go back and table anything we tabled to that.
Yeah,
Okay, to the
That's
okay.
26th.
Is that all right?
Yep.
Okay.
okay.
26 or
Um,
April.
Or April
Yes.
26th, yeah.
Okay. Will there be a May? Well, no, there'll be by that time, there'll be isn't there an early April meeting?
April
Yeah.
10th.
April 10th.
April 10th, so it'll be on April 10th. Any of the unfinished
Oh.
business, right?
Yeah.
We just added to that
Yeah, we
agenda,
just
we
added
don't
to
even
that.
have it, okay.
So we're saying if we can't meet on the 26th of March,
Then
then
it goes
we're
to the
not
10th, anything we
the
table.
10th, and then we'll just have a second meeting in April and not a second meeting in March. Got it, okay.
That makes sense.
So we'll find that out hopefully tomorrow.
All right,
Okay.
update on village, next up is on the agenda is
I'll
update
have
on
to
village
send an
hall.
email out.
So we have to take a quick break.
Barbie, just so you know, if you ever need me in a pinch, I check the email randomly. So if you need me in a pinch, just throw me a text to check my email. And I'll hop on there, but I don't have notifications set up.
Okay,
So if you need me, just shoot me a text.
okay.
Okay, next up on the agenda, 10th, update on village hall. Okay, so where this went is we had the meeting for the retreat. That was on the agenda. We talked about it and had identified that property as a potential. And prior to that, we had, I believe, Kim and meet with Nick separately, me separately, and then at one point, Kim and I brought 3 staff members.
Yeah.
So it was Chris,
Barbie.
Barbie, and Kelly, just to get their ideas to see if we were missing something. So we got our heads wrapped around that, and that was before the retreat. So we had something to kind of base it on, and that's why we were getting an update. So it is a potential. We looked at it. We saw some things. Here's my concern.
For the record, it's 10208 Newtown Road.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
This is gonna be public now, though, are we?
Yes, and that's fine, and you have to discuss it in public, and that's
10,
what we had
10.
determined, that we couldn't go into closed session unless there was
You have
gonna
to
be.
state the address,
Unless there's a
parcel
contract,
number. And you go into close to give the negotiating agent.
Got it.
Just specifics.
Yeah.
So the idea came around, and it started with the public hearing that was held for this location here. So we have, I think, identified 90 seats capacity for Village Hall, current one that's planned for that corner. At the end of the day, we only have, I believe, what's scheduled to be 30 parking spaces. So when asked, and when they had their open meeting, I think you were here with Thing, they asked that question specifically, what are the plans for when there is a contentious or a big meeting where everyone's going to come and come here? So the answer that was given to our constituents was 2 things: carpool and parking at the elementary school and walking. Now, if you do that right now at night, nobody's going to do that. What they couldn't say, and I'll say it here, is what they couldn't say is what will happen in those situations when you do have a big meeting is they will automatically park in the preserve in those neighborhoods and walk to the corner. That's reality. If you only have 30 parking spaces, and I would argue that we take up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right now. 8 parking spaces out of the 30, which leaves 22 for when we're expecting 90. So my option was, when we know that's going to happen, we've got, we believe, 3 options. One is utilize the church hall when we know that there's a lot of buzz, whether next door neighbor or you're getting feedback, people are going to use the church hall and rent that for what it is. Option 2 would be potentially Firethorn. They have a big area where they can put seats, have that available. And option 3 is always a auditorium at the high school. It's done all the time. we're having a meeting, an upcoming meeting for, I think, all the elected officials coming up here shortly, and they're using Weddington for that. So either way, wherever we go, big meetings are not going to be able to be, you're not going to have proper parking even at that location. So the idea came in, when this came in, floated the idea and thought, wow, the look of it is much better than what a barn look that we have currently right now, which I think the original planning board had some issues with. The other issue on the town hall and the why we are considering a serious play on this, and again, we don't even know if it's going to do. That particular property is under $1 million. Now, to change it, whatever it is, it's going to cost X amount of dollars. I don't think it's 500,000. I don't think it's anywhere near that, because we didn't look at it as 99% of that time that place is used like this. The dining room is slightly smaller than this, but there is an ability to open up one of the rooms. So we were just kind of bringing in staff to see if we were missing anything. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. I mean, I think the staff said, yes, it could work. It's just how we would do it and how you would partition certain rooms if you had to, and how you would use the things up there. But for 99% of the time, it could work. For big meetings, it wouldn't work. In fact, you'd have to add parking spaces to that facility, and for what reason? I mean, to accommodate 90 people? I'm already saying we have to come, unless we find another piece of land, we have to come to the conclusion that large meetings are not going to be held at the Village Hall. We almost have to go to another forum. That's my opinion, and I'm likely to feel share. So that's kind of why we looked at it. We also we understand that Weddington did the same thing and utilized a house and converted it to a town hall. My other concern, quite frankly, is, and I don't know the numbers and we haven't got quotes, but we have gotten quotes on roads and they were way off. But I asked just recently at the last mayor's meeting, Brad Horvath, that was around for the Wesley Chapel. They are building about a 5,000 square foot, they built a 5,000 square foot facility. Similar to what we're doing when you look at the building, and we're changing the outside of it. I asked him what they paid, $1.8 million for essentially what we were going to build in that corner. That was 4, 5, 6 years ago, whenever they built it. But he clarified they got the land for free. I said, we're in the same boat here. So how we think we are going to get, and we don't have bids out yet because we don't know what it's going to look like, how we think we're going to get to half of what Wesley Chapel did it for is, I mean, for me, hard to imagine how we get there, which puts us at probably $150 a square foot, puts it under $1 million if you're at 5,000 square foot. So that was my challenge, and we were thinking out of the box from the look, architecture. It looks beautiful. It has the land. It actually speaks about what, when we talk about open land and what we represent, openness and stuff, that does it. Then for the other corner, as I just walked with PRG just last week, I walked the whole trail down there. There is an incredible opportunity where you could envision council, the Village Hall or the village, owning both corners of the roundabouts. We own that one there, and we potentially own that one there, that we can do more things that are open to, instead of putting a building there, you can do amphitheaters, you can do, get that trail in, which we walked it, and that's, you said, is very doable in the near future, right? That we have the budget for.
Already, yeah.
So they get that put in, and then that becomes whatever, an amphitheater. We talked about, these food trucks, but if that becomes a destination where people, and again, it's eliminating, not trying to eliminate all the trees. The only eyesore you have is all the utilities that happen to be in a certain area. How you screen that, I'm not sure, but as I walked that area and saw the potential, and that also included potentially the property that's just next to Tullamore, and is there an opportunity there to bring that extra 3 acres in if he's willing to sell that to us? We talked about buying land where we're not adding more buildings. So when we sit at the table with these landowners, we're actually a fairly significant player with 3.5 to 4 acres on one side, 2 acres on the other side, and this whole corridor to talk about what we want to do in this downtown. So that's just kind of where the background came from for you two when we were discussing this. Feel free to add other things that I'm kind of forgetting that we talked about on that Friday. It is under $1 million. I will tell you what they're priced at. If they get that price, I will sell my house tomorrow because I'll put it on the market because that would make my house worth. So I think their price, it's just my opinion is, and I can't find a comp that's anywhere close to what they want. So maybe it never happens. Maybe they don't want us to even be a town hall. I don't know the answer to that. But I think when you look at the use for that land, and if I'm a purchaser of that, if the concern is from the residents who are attached to that, the rest of that property, there's nothing going on there on the weekends. We don't do anything here on the weekends. It stays empty. The only thing you would see there is a potential officer car if our current officer decides to spend one of his days working a Saturday or a Sunday. My assumption is he could be parked there or using an office there. So we're trying to space it out. It's just an idea. It's nothing set in stone, but it's a serious play because it keeps us truly under the budget of what we estimated. I think we talked about it in the retreat. We're estimating under $1 million to build this property, right?
Right, we currently have a budget of like about 965,000.
To build, okay.
Right.
Okay. And just from a frame of reference, when you consider what Wesley Chapel did 6 years ago, same square footage, what we're talking about, it was 1.8.
I thought they were 1, 2, because I remember doing an analysis on it.
He told
and that was high,
Yeah.
because they were the cheapest one, but they were one, so.
That was his words, and I can go back and confirm it. And it scared the lights out of me, especially when our last AMT, they convinced us that our roads were going to cost us.
Right.
What was it? They were double.
Yeah.
When the bids came in, they were double. So thank
Well,
goodness
that was
we were
just
able
that
to do it.
one. That was you understand why that was so screwed up. That was what's his name? Huck, not Huck. The guy that does the black top, who gave us the bid over in Monroe.
Yeah, I forget.
Box.
Right.
Remember, it was at the end, and they told us this.
I thought it was AMT that did it.
No. He told us.
Oh, Boggs gave the bid.
Yes, it was a Boggs bid. It was at the end of the year.
Right.
They didn't want it, so they just threw it out there because they had it. And our guy says it's going to be a lot less. We didn't realize it was going to be that less though.
And then at the end of the day, the second bid, no bids came in, but then we were like, okay, now what? But you're right, the timing was everything. But I think our end game, going with the OT and piggybacking on them, brilliant, best thing that happened. It enabled us to get a lot more of the roads done, which is fantastic. So my whole thing is, as we talked about it individually, is like, okay, we know we're going to be under budget. Now, it'd be great to have you, Robert, go in there and look at this from what after staff looked at it and say, okay, if we open up the one room off to the right and just opened up that, and no elevators right now are required. We'd already looked into what's required for access for handicap would be very easy. I'm going to go to a meeting tomorrow to find out more about what's involved in that. We determined that townhomes don't necessarily need a bathtub and shower. So to the left of the fireplace, when you're walking off to the right, is a big wall, and behind that is a shower and a thing, plenty of room to create a handicap place. Yeah.
Is there multiple fireplaces in there?
Yes.
Remember, that won't be a concern, because if you remember, our insurance says if you have one, and that's why I was able to tell Lisa, remember, it was like she wanted the fireplace.
There are 2 fireplaces I know of.
There are
More than
two,
two.
maybe
Two downstairs.
3.
I think
I thought I read
there's
five.
one,
No,
there's
there's a
one
couple
in
upstairs.
the
I have
gym
one.
room,
Yeah.
there's one in the
That
main
insurance
room,
would-
and I
you know,
think
that
there's
was a big
one
thing from an
upstairs.
insurance
Right.
standpoint.
And
Between the
That's not the
two.
one-
you can cap those off too.
Yeah.
You can cap those off and
cap
say
them off.
they're not, but I think the idea of what offices would be upstairs, that was all to be discussed and say, okay, who belongs where? Where does the planning board go? Where does the clerk go? Those people that are dealing with the public every day
Have to be downstairs.
have to be downstairs and stuff.
That's gotta be the
the,
majority though, I would think.
yeah, I mean, and if we have to have our offices and move them upstairs, or we had a closed session, we had to get into closed session, we move upstairs, talk about what we're gonna talk about. I think it's workable. That's why when we structured the offer we made, it was very much in line with, we need to make sure that, for instance, if we had to add parking, we need to do our due diligence because they are, I believe, on a septic, right?
Mhm.
So we have to check out the leach fields and say, is that even possible? So I want to take as less cement that I need to. There's a separate detached, quite frankly, a barn there, not a barn, but a garage door, a garage that two car garage that, I mean, inside it is beautiful. That could be used as a space room and could easily heat that if we went that direction. But, you know, based on how it looks, you drive by it tonight, it looks spectacular. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's a way to make sure we stay under budget and just say, hey, this is an option. I will tell you, since this has become public, I've personally heard from a lot of people. And in fact, I've actually been, before they even knew it was public, people have come up to me and said, hey, this should be a consideration. And we're getting a lot of positive feedback from it. I don't know, Nick, if you've talked to more people or if I'm missing anything, but that's kind of the direction. I think we put parameters on the initial offer that gave us a way to walk away from it. And you know, certainly price is going to be an issue.
To do our due diligence to make sure it actually works. Make
If
sure
it works.
it's structurally sound for a municipal building, things like that. And it
That
gives
would
us
be a
those-
big thing, because there are different standards
Yep,
to municipal.
Absolutely. And so that gives us an option.
Yeah, my feeling on it was, you know, I mean, we did look at it one time for a town hall.
Well, we did look at that.
Of course, it was in such a
It was one of our top five.
Yeah, but it was in such a mess that we couldn't even.
In fairness, Nick,
Think about it.
you told me that, you know, I'll go look at it, but then with what they did,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that I would guarantee you the government will never do something that nice.
But I mean,
Okay,
it has the 19, it's, you know, it's from 1901, so it's
Right,
historic,
yeah,
it
yeah.
looks like Marvin.
Yeah,
It's on a corner where, I mean, all four sides of Marvin, you're looking every way you look around it is Marvin. It's got the historic well in the back that would be on our property. It's from when, you know, it was the only well
It
in
was the
Marvin.
community well in
Community well for
Marvin.
a
Back
while.
in the early
You
1900s,
know,
yeah.
historic things, and, you know,
Yeah,
go back
yeah.
to Atlantis
Yeah.
historic stuff.
yeah.
You know, I mean, it's, again, but it's, not, you know, we made an offer, it's not a done deal, we don't even know if it's gonna
No.
go through, so I mean, you know.
And there's a lot of questions we have
Right. And
before,
I think-
and there's so many ways to back out of this without, you know, and that's kind of where we were at and what we talked about it, but
Right,
It's-
and the other thing appealing to me too, is then we basically control one thing with it, because I'm not looking to sell that piece of property.
well, there's no reason to. We're talking about buying properties.
You know, so I mean, then we control both ends of the,
Right.
corridor.
Okay, so from a parking standpoint, and I don't know this, but you can't park on your leach field,
Yeah,
right?
but that's
Where
what,
they
well,
park.
obviously, we gotta have that.
So that, yeah, and
That
it's only 2 acres, so you guys saw better than I did, but
Yeah.
that would be my concern.
And
Could
I
we
don't
get
know where they are.
30 or 40 spaces in there?
Yeah.
Because you know, we can get more space over here, because when Mary was doing that, we did 85-foot setbacks. But when we do that district, we can say this is a 50-foot setback. We didn't do that when we built this. You guys understand that?
So,
Just so you know.
no, and
We didn't do that.
I'm sure there's
Yeah. Yeah.
there could be room, but so
Yeah.
our concern is, but that was the answer they were giving.
Oh,
people.
no,
And I was like,
that's fair, because that's what we.
maybe not.
correct, yeah.
But I will tell you, Ron, in my opinion, so we own that, and we for 99% of the time, it doesn't take a lot of traffic. How many cars are out here during the day? But then when we know we're having those big meetings,
Yeah.
we already have, you know, signed another place that we're going to have it.
Yeah, 25
And how many big issues are
Over
left?
here.
There's the land, yeah, well, there's the land use, that's what we said, that hall. There's the land use plan
Right.
that people may want to have in these landowners. There's, Marvin Gardens, I think, is,
Right.
it's some public input and stuff, which you get meetings. And we may have potentially another issue with Providence Downs, who wants to put the gate in, and they're gonna come in and they're gonna need us for something. Maybe that happens, maybe it doesn't. But we're almost built out.
Yeah.
And we look at how many cars sit in here and how you can do that. I actually looked at the mud room, which is the actual, and it's beautiful, which is the actual laundry room. And I believe if you clear everything out, there's enough space which has a separate access door for our officer
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
And then you have that separate building that we're talking about getting a truck eventually for maybe Derek. This is way down the road, but right now he's
That's
using.
Derek's wish.
I know, but it is, in fairness, he is using his vehicle, and as we are growing and we
Yeah.
start putting this land, I look at that land and here's what I envision now if I were to wave a magic wand. Seeing what I saw, I see it as a great gathering place for people, and instead of putting buildings that are there permanently, you still put in the market, farmer's market, that you can access there and have space parking for that, some sort of amphitheater type field where you can have weekends where people play and stuff. And then you do the food trucks. The food trucks are, I'm telling you, they're not permanent structures. They come in, people come, it's a destination point. You got most of the people from Marvin Creek can ride their bikes. Your neighborhood would ride bikes. I would argue that even Firethorn would ride bikes because we know the parking wouldn't be here, but you could do something
They're
on
not
weekends.
crossing the street.
Well, I may not. So there's nothing in Hardstone saying, hey, we're going after this. That at the end of the day, maybe 99% chance that that's where we're building. We just said, hey, this hasn't been thought about. Let's look at it. Let's bring in these guys to say, are we missing something?
Yeah.
If that house was anywhere else, as far as other than
Right.
because my wife was with me,
Yeah.
she goes, Joe, this house is absolutely beautiful. But I will tell you, as a family,
Yeah.
I would never put my kids there because there's 16,000 cars going across
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
So who buys that? I don't know. But if our use doesn't change, kind of like I said with this place, our use doesn't change, so it opens this up and leaves it pristine and quiet on weekends. That's a benefit, in my view, to the person who lives right in that corner because they're not having to worry about who lives in there and what kind of
Yeah,
parties are
yeah,
thrown.
yeah.
But that house anywhere else,
Yeah.
man, I'm all over it.
Has
And
it
it's-
just been redone? Did I read that correctly? It's just been
Oh,
redone?
It is.
been
It is.
gutted.
We would never do anything
So
remotely to that.
what I'm thinking, and I haven't seen it, so I'm playing devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
If I did a house, I would make sure that it's got granite in there, it's got the garden tub, and
Mm-hmm. Yep.
all the stuff that I don't need for a town hall. So
Mm-hmm.
they spend a lot of money on these things that aren't
That's
good
where,
for
that's
us.
where price,
And that's what we gotta
price
look
is gonna
at.
matter.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if you
How do I
look
get
at
that
what their
money in other
price is,
rooms where I want?
Ron, right
That's all.
now where they're priced at is $221 a
Yeah.
square foot. The average
Yeah.
square foot selling price in Marvin is what? 170,
something.
180. So there's a disparity. They may never get down to
Shouldn't get
that.
mine is at 140.
But if I'm a buyer for a family, because what else are they going to put there?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, that's the same thing you negotiated with these guys.
Which
Remember,
one?
The park, they were 250, 2.5, remember?
Right.
And we offered them 950, saying, we're your last best chance, because you only perk at 2 spots.
Right, and-
Well, this guy probably only perks.
And I don't know that. And I don't
Yeah.
even know what their issues are. They may
Yeah.
have concerns, quite frankly, with having a town hall there because it may devalue their property value and
That's
stuff.
true.
I don't think
Yeah.
that is a unique.
Yeah.
And we asked them, where's the comps for that particular house on the corner? They said, we didn't do any because we don't think there's any fair ones. I guarantee you,
Yeah.
when someone goes to buy that house and they get a loan on it, they're going to have to get comps from somewhere. Maybe it's not in Marvin, but the bank is going to require a comp to go. Just like we're going to be able to go to our constituents and say, we paid a fair price. It may be a little bit above, but we paid a fair price if we were able to get it. But right now, as it stands, that price, again, is beyond what I don't think anybody is. You're listing just recently with Sawicki's home is over, I think we found out it's like $200 a foot. He has a gated community, he has basketball, he has pool, his own pool, plus a community pool, plus a community thing, plus he's locked, and he's selling all his furniture with it.
The whole house.
The whole house with the furniture in it.
Almost the whole house.
Oh, well, so some furniture's
Almost.
leaving?
Some's
Okay,
gone.
so-
But
Yeah.
But he's at, that price is at 200 and that's his asking price. So
Yeah, so it's
we've
gonna be
done the
190.
comps as agents, we've done the comps, we're just saying, hey, help us out if we can come to an agreement. We need to still go to our constituents. I think you made a great argument that if we were to come to some agreement, we would still bring this to the public to see what their
Well,
input
you have to
was.
also go to Raleigh. I spend weeks in Raleigh. Remember how many times we went back and forth to Raleigh?
That was only because
Not
of
if
the
you're
loan.
not
That's if you
borrowing.
borrow money. If
If
you
you
don't
borrow
borrow
money,
money.
If you
Oh.
don't borrow, you don't have to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
there's
So
no
we
one-
want to use,
that's to
we
get a
want to
loan
use
for
everything we
Well,
have.
we have that already put aside for that. That's-
We
Oh, we got 900.
Yeah.
We have 900 already put
Isn't there
aside.
gonna be some major stuff for flooring and, you know, when you have people in,
Well, that's what we,
that's my concern. That's what we did. Remember, we looked at this old house here. This poor guy was underneath the park house and we were finding out that it didn't,
But that,
remember, the
and
floors weren't
that's,
holding.
and that's what you wanna do during your due diligence
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
process.
floors
Is-
weren't holding
is
stuff.
find out, like,
Yeah.
if it
Yeah.
is actually suitable.
Right,
Yeah, because it
right.
turns out it's not suitable.
And
Right.
Yeah.
FYI, by the way,
Right.
we think we have the funds if we can get it for a fair price, which I don't even know what that number is. But at the end of the day, the process to get a loan right now is months, right?
Yeah.
But we can refi
But
for.
once you have the house, you can always
Right.
refi and
Right.
use that as collateral and say, okay, we need
Right,
$200,000 for,
right.
Is
for,
it the Raleigh process? Is it, you have to go to Raleigh? for
Yeah.
that?
It depends, there's criteria, and it
Could be
just
the
depends
one.
on.
but it's something that I think, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, that if we wanted to, it could be move-in ready. However, you could stay in here and say, okay, fix this, add a little ramp through the back, which is very easy to add access for a ADA out of the back, which is a simple ramp out of the back, and then cutting out the a little bit of the wall too. If there is a gathering of this, that they can still see what's happening in there. You can put speakers up that they can hear easily. Again, any big meetings, we're not having them there because I don't think that's the right thing. But I think in talking to the Weddington mayor, it's a house that they used, and to your point, they did buy a house, and I don't know why, but I used the bathroom there. It's granite countertops and stuff, so I think someone at some point remodeled in it because it's a nicer bathroom than most
Right.
people have. But if you've used that in there, they've also spent the money, but then they converted a bunch of things and made a big room. So it's a thought that's quite frankly, I've heard very little downside on it, and these are people that aren't even familiar with it. They like the look, they like the idea that it has some history. The well used to serve the community back in the 1900s. And again, at the end of the day, we're so far off on price that we may never see this happen, or they may just be, we're not interested in having.
Yeah, I'm
Town hall
shocked
in
they
that
didn't,
corner.
they didn't give a counter offer. Usually you would think, no, but.
Right,
No problem.
there are some stipulations in there, so
We'll
you,
discuss that in closed.
yeah, we discuss that if we get into close. But that's,
Yeah, okay.
was kind of my discussion when we were going to talk about this. We had it for that, and that's what led into the closed session. That wasn't necessarily planned, but we thought, you know what? We'll see if we can do it in a way that protects us, because we're not committing to anything. I think there'll be some due diligence. Well,
A lot.
tons of due diligence, but there may be people that you may be able to tell what it's going to cost to knock out a wall. You know,
Alright, I can tell you.
yeah.
What are you thinking?
Well, I can have a floor mat, I have a few notes.
Okay.
If you guys wanna, if you wanna put me at ease, let's lock in what we're talking about with that corner property. If it's gonna be a park, I'm excited to hear that. If we ended up buying that, and you guys have the votes, so what I'm saying here is my opinion, but I get that you guys have the votes to do what you want. But if you're willing to put a deed restriction on that corner property, is that legal?
Yeah.
That says it can only be a park or a village hall, if that didn't work out. Amphitheater, to me, that's a park.
Right.
Everything you're
park?
saying about it,
Dog park?
dog park.
Something for public use.
A gathering
Oh,
area.
Yeah, it has
Yeah,
to
yeah.
be.
For
It'll be
public
Because we're pointing out at everything that is not.
Maybe a mobile Starbucks.
Village property, because as we all know, I've had stuck in my head that
Yeah,
certain people wanted to do something
Right.
grander there.
And I'd like to put you at ease with that too.
So
think
he's,
the restriction
yeah, he's
would
giving his thoughts, yeah,
put me
yeah,
at
that's
ease.
good.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it would put a lot of residents at ease. I think.
I agree.
We have to bring them down, because we've been telling them for years, this is coming, this is it, and we're giving them pictures or whatever. So, you know, they're out there, so we have to say, hey, we found something better if we have, and this is where it's at, so, you know, it's a slow job.
So
Yeah.
I thought I had the floor wrong.
I'm sorry.
And I don't mean any of this to sound negative, it's just a list. But when Kim and I, we had coffee, we talked. I think it's a gorgeous house. Like I told you guys, I know the person that redid it, saw it along the process. But right now it's a house. So the stuff we'd have to do to make it a village hall may or may not be expensive depending on how creative staff is willing to get with their offices.
Mhm.
As far as the meeting area, same deal. Parking is a formula by occupancy. So the village hall, and again, don't take this negatively, Joe, but to say that 30 is not enough, I don't disagree with you, but the math worked out. So for 90 people or whatever our occupancy is, that's what the engineer came on with parking. Same math will have to apply over there. So if we do a meeting area like this and it's determined that it holds 30 people, chances are we need 10 spots.
Mhm.
And we take up
Which 10
six.
spots is doable. Yeah. Something like 10 spots is doable up there, just from memory.
Yeah.
The good news is if we don't get it, it stays pretty no matter what. And that's important to me as a resident to know, no one's gonna tear that thing down. It is gorgeous.
It is, it's just the.
But some of the things we'd have to research, for instance, is where the roundabout ends.
I can answer that. Because I talked to DOT, the preliminary plans, because I was like, how much of the front yard are you taking on Newtown? Would be about 20 feet, maybe 25. This is preliminary plans of the Be Simple.
Okay. So it's not, it doesn't make it to the round area.
No.
It seems like that would, it still look like a needle.
Mhm.
Okay. Stuff like that.
Anything on Marvin?
My question was just about how much of this property are you taking? If we're
Right.
interested in, making an offer, if you're taking half the front yard and we
Yeah.
can't have parking, then forget
Right,
it.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't want people to drive around about it and be able to touch the building like a brass ring.
Right.
Like hit it like Notre Dame does when they come out.
Yeah. The other stuff, and Kim and I talked about this, my concerns would just be as a builder and having known what I went through at the park and what we went through, why we went to a slab on the new town hall, is if it's considered public occupancy, there's different loads that are required.
Mhm.
So when we do the research, if we get that far, part of the due diligence needs to be not written as homeownership, but for the use we're using it for. Because the county would like to require that. They don't get us here because we rent.
Right.
They don't make us do anything on a rental. But if we own it, all of a sudden that stuff, I think will kick in, which you'll find out tomorrow when you go to that meeting.
It's gonna be full questions. And by the way, there is something, she sent me an email in May that they're inviting all council members and mayors or anyone to really, it's an all day. I don't know if I need to spend all day in learning about that, but I'm hoping I get enough from this to determine, because my understanding and some of the due diligence, I think even you shared with us, is the percentages of when you do a remodel, the percentage of like 20% has to go towards ADA when you do that. So we looked at, okay, what would we be doing? But we'd actually be doing probably most of the remodeling would require for ADA, that one bathroom. I think it can be done. You would be much better to tell me if that was possible. And then we talked initially about an elevator, but we don't really need one right now. And then back access. And some of it is just unfortunately tearing out beautiful cabinets that are the mud room and the laundry room. They could be reused somewhere else, but they are beautiful cabinets and beautiful granite countertops in there. But is that big enough for an office? I don't know. But Ed, what I see, what he has now, and then we're not looking. I mean, we don't have a police department. We just learned today that we should never have a police department.
Yeah, yeah.
You weren't in that.
Ed probably wouldn't mind that garage in the back.
Well,
That's true.
that's another option there, but I mean, there was, and then there's a lot of space back there, and I have no idea, but I certainly wouldn't want to use that, but it was obviously a garden back there. And I want to take as less, to your point about however many spots we need, given that 99% or whatever they require, I want to put as less concrete down as I can, because that, walking out the back is absolutely beautiful. You get cars, once you're in, believe it or not, I didn't hear much of the traffic that was going by when you guys were in there too, even the one that was closest to it. But and back to your other point about if it means to get you comfortable, I'm not interested. Especially, I walked that trail with Chris. We weren't prepared to. It was raining, and we ended up walking all the way back. I was soaking wet, but we looked at that, and I thought,
Nice.
there's.
Yeah.
And to Nick's point, we're looking at potentially owning both corners of the downtown corridor, and now we're a significant player saying, look, we want to create something that is not going to affect that homeowner there, but we have that option too, whether it's deeding it or whatever. I don't know where you got the idea of wanting to sell it. I think that's where that idea may have come from. Fair thing is that you can get a developer to come in there and possibly bury lines, and then that developer, with what he's allowed to do, puts a town hall in there for you. That's been done in many, many towns and stuff like that. But the reality is, I'm more interested.
But
It
there were
is.
lots of, over the last 2 years, hints, and that's where I extrapolated what I thought people wanted to do with that corner.
Mhm.
So if you three are willing, well, and you, Ron, I'm not discounting you.
It's okay.
If you all are willing to put a deed restriction on that,
Right.
you know, no commercial, it's,
Would you allow like food trucks to go in there and,
Oh,
and
heck
do that?
yeah.
Okay, if we did parking.
That's a great idea.
Amplifier thing is nice, but you got big people with big homes close, that may be an issue.
Well, that's why you have we have an ordinance for sound. It's usually acoustical stuff that we talked about. I know they do it at the park occasionally for weddings,
Yeah.
but if you face it out towards that corner, it's the actual music is going towards the corner, which is towards unincorporated Union County. But we need to be good neighbors, and I'm just looking for, I mean, what I got out of, and I hate to use him, but what I got out of Terry Shook is where you get gathering places, and even I think our candidate today alluded to it, is about keeping people here and a place for them, and whether it's on the weekends or whatever. And what happens here, I don't know. I think, I was told by a planning board member who I think talked to you guys at some point saying, we're not too far apart, it's just what it looks like and what we can create. And the last thing I want to do is do high density stuff that's going to be, and again, your average retail spot, if you did a retail, is 1,500 square feet right now, which is very little.
Well, my request would be, once we come out of closed session, we would make a motion if we're
Once we go into closed session.
Right.
We go in and then we come out.
Yes.
We have to announce what we would be doing.
You have to state
No.
your action.
No, we
Not if you have an action.
We don't
Not-
If
necessarily-
you're
Yeah,
giving
yes.
me instructions, your negotiating agent instructions, or if it's someone else, then no, you do
No.
not. Only if you are signing a contract.
Yeah.
Which an option or an offer is not a contract, because the other party needs to sign it.
I would, much like we would ask a homeowner, I would just ask that if we go down this path, that deed restriction would be part of our council agreement, whether it's a motion, whether it's however we do it.
Well, that'll be part of that negotiation, so then it had to be in closed session, wouldn't it?
Well, no, that doesn't have.
That's a
anything to do with
negotiation
that.
amongst
That's-
us.
That's,
That
that doesn't involve.
That's what we already talked about.
That's us
Yeah, it's not part of the
Yeah.
negotiation.
Right.
Yeah, so that would be something that we just have to get in if this current council, I'm not interested in selling it. I envision it just because of the location of it. What are you gonna build there eventually? It could be a town hall, but then that could be double what we projected. Literally double.
Could be, and these are the things I don't want you guys to take wrong, because I'm with you. As long as I can get assurances that stays in the village's possession, and as some sort of park feature area, open space.
We talked about, what is it, farm to table, was that okay, something like that? Not a farm to table, farmer's market.
Okay,
Any of those
that's
items are
fine,
great.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with any of those ideas. But here's the stuff I don't want you to take the wrong way. The parking thing I mentioned, the math is the math. And selling people on something that is out of our control, we should just stay away from. Sell them on the good. So the lack of parking, we can talk about it, but it's a formula that Starbucks, Kmart, if you're still in business, they all go by it. And in Christmas, no one knows where to park. That's just how it is. So the one meeting a year we have where a bunch of people show up, they just have to figure it out.
But is it coded different for, and the reason I ask that, because Starbucks, yes, they have a building,
I
but
think
they
there's
expect
different
people to go
math
in
for
and also
each
go
of-
out, whereas here, we're talking about people coming for 2-3 hours
Starbucks
of
is
a
a bad
meeting.
example.
Okay.
Any box store, there's a math, whether it's 12 spots, per, it was something ridiculous, like 12 spots per.
It goes by what kind of store it is or what kind of thing it is, and
Yeah.
And that's my point here, is we're talking about a meeting, you're coming for 3 hours and you may be staying for 3 hours, whereas if I'm going to Starbucks, I'm getting a coffee, then I'm going, it makes up room for the next guy.
Well,
It's seats, what you're sitting, so 30 people sitting down, that's the formula comes
I'm
up,
sure
with that,
whatever
not just the 8 of us.
But if we end up back,
Well, that's the formula is.
let's say that doesn't work out and we end up back over there,
Mhm.
I just want everyone to know, that's parking spaces isn't something that we
Right.
came up with.
Yeah.
We actually have room to do more parking, but we didn't want it, because we wanted the option to do a farmer's market, we wanted trails, but the engineer said we could do 30, or whatever the number is.
Yeah, I thought it was around 30. Okay.
If we get back over there, both you and Kim have mentioned the barn look. I'm not married to how the village looks. I didn't come up with that idea. I don't know who the original concept came from. It was like years in the making. So I'm not married to how the outside looks. I love the way that looks.
Yeah.
So just want to put that out.
I'll go on the record now, if it ends up going back there, I'm not, we already have a barn, it's at Eford Park. But,
Well, we could change the front
yeah, the
without
front,
dramatically changing
without
it.
spending a lot of money, I agree, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't have a
Needs
problem with
To
that.
happen.
It's
If it goes
the
back over there.
I have a problem with pumping the brakes without us all know what's really going on.
Yeah. Fair
it's-
enough.
That doesn't matter. The road dollars that we were off on, I guess you guys talked about that when I went to the bathroom. Again, just an instance of, it's not positive. We ended up where we need to be on road dollars. I don't, dragging that into, use that as an example of Wesley Chapel and their 1.8 and that we could go over. I can assure you that if as a council member, that whatever our budget is over there, I can help us stay under it. Depending on how the bids come back, I can, just because that's my world.
You can
So-
cut what they did for 1.8, under 1 million, you can do over 800,000.
I don't know what they did to get to 1.8.
I don't either,
Yeah.
that was his number, I'll go back and confirm that.
Check 1-1 sticking in my mind, and I can be wrong.
Yeah, he actually told me, and he was saying, oh, and by the way, that was without the land, and they got 6 acres of land. I said, okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, 1.8, he goes, yes. I mean, he was mayor, then he wasn't mayor, then just
Yeah,
got back
involved.
in, but he was there involved when that happened, I think.
Something weird happened.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
two-story Alberta.
I mean, you two are.
But
in
there's
the-
no,
I'm sorry.
there's no offices up there.
Oh, I said it's
It's
two-story
storage only.
Alberta.
I walked
Brick,
it.
I don't know.
And it's all brick too.
Yeah.
It's all brick
All
and
brick,
it's storage,
yeah.
so the brick
Yeah.
facade or
Yeah.
front may have something to do with it, but that's a lot for brick.
You guys are both in the business, and just to put you at ease, if it's a 4,000 square feet.
Downstairs with 1,000 upstairs, yeah. But we
1,000
wanted to finish it,
finished,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Even at $200 a foot, which would be a high quality custom house, we're only at 800 over there because we already have the land and we have access to sewer and water. So I really, again, I wouldn't sell people on that, suggesting that we can't manage a budget, because I think we can as a group. Certainly Chris can, and I can help keep numbers down. So if we end up back over there, just know that we're not looking at doubling the budget. It's just a matter of if you get a screwed up set of bids, you don't take them. you push them back. Because we can build a nice town hall. It doesn't have granite, it doesn't have cabinets. We can build it for $150 a square foot. That I know.
And I think that's what we use, that number, 150.
We use 150, yeah. And we've been promising people a new town hall. Honestly, and I told Kim this, I've always loved that house. I've driven by it 100 times and gone, and make a nice library, make a nice town hall. Back before I knew we were, when I wasn't on council, I didn't even know that so much effort had been put into building the town, or designing the town hall. I wasn't part of it. I didn't know till 2.5 years ago. I used to drive by it and go, that's an awesome house.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still there. I still think it's an awesome house. We just need to know what it would cost to be an awesome village hall. And then I'm hung up on the corner property
I get
in
it.
the park.
Totally understand. I totally understand that, and I certainly, if that puts you at ease and something like that, because as I look at it and I see the value of, again, Ron, back to your point about putting money aside to buy land. Well, we didn't even have to buy that, but we could buy that, and you control this corner to corner where they said it's very walkable. It starts with what we learned, I think, in that meeting with, what was his name? Chris Matthews, that you put the trails in first and you kind of build around that, and you determine what you... My fear, as I said time and time again, is us losing control of this roundabout to roundabout. And we lose control of this, and the state comes in and said, you got $18,000 cars coming, we have to expand it. And then that ruins all the charm, and we don't do anything about it. But if we own it from roundabout, I mean, we're already owning the other roads, then we say, no, this is that, what we call that speed trap that everybody knows about, that you're driving on a rural road and all of a sudden you come into an area and we can control the speed. It's 25 miles. I was told you can actually almost make this where it's an undesirable way to come to be a cut through, because it's got that feel of, okay, you're in a speed trap, you're going to have to go this speed or whatever, and it's almost a deterrent. But again, what it looks like, I think Mary had some great pictures when it was, that's, the feel, the look, and I look at this church, I think that looks like, and if I'm going to build, if it were my druthers and I wanted to build something with history, that one already has it. Over there, if we're building it, we're kind of trying to create a new history and stuff where that one has it. And it's already got the feel. 99% of the time, it can house what we do in this office. And the beautiful thing is, we're kind of boxed in. We don't really have what Weddington has. Weddington has, they're only at 50%. They haven't even kind of breached the issue of commercial yet and stuff, even though that the town halls is. We're at 90%. What's left? That's why I want to hear what Fincher wants in that corner over there and stuff, and say, if he wants too much, then we say no, and say, because that's just too much and stuff. But but it's got to be enough to make it work. Because the last thing I want, if we do this and we embark on this, is empty buildings because they're too expensive because we didn't allow enough. But I don't know what that number is. I really don't. I mean,
I don't know.
and I don't know what that ends up being square footage. And that's what anyone who does anything is going to look at, that square footage. What's it going to cost me? Right now, Waverly, it's crazy over there. It's like, it's almost like our now new go-to place to go to a restaurant, but it's crazy over there. And I would never see that for here, but I can see something where small gathering places for weekends where, and if you did something on it, whatever. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the plan looks like. I don't have any vested interest, but I just like the idea of the look and feel, what could be used 90% of the time versus what we're doing here, and my concern of going over budget.
Well, I mean, I'm fine. Me personally, I would love to be able to get this location if we can, which is a big question mark at this point, until we do all the due diligence, until we get from the, negotiate further with the owner or whatever.
If they even want to negotiate.
Well, whatever. Yeah, I'm saying that's, I would love to have that as the town hall. As far as this piece of property here, I have no interest in selling it or developing it into commercial or anything like that, so I have no problem,
Let me ask you this, because Robbie has 3 acres, which plus our 4 acres, which comes to 7 acres and stuff. if he's not interested, if he's interested in sell it, that may be something we can see what he wants for it. And then now you've just
If
picked
you
up.
don't buy that, I would definitely say I would buy his, you know.
Yeah, and he may not be interested in
Then
it.
you can have more parking and,
Right.
and an amplifier.
But more importantly,
If we did
Ron,
that and we kept that, we still have money for land acquisition, we could now have 7 acres.
yeah,
Well, but I don't know how much, you're gonna have to spend money to get this,
Yeah.
you know, get the
But
tubs
more-
out and get
Yeah,
the
come on.
kitchens
more
out.
more importantly, if either way, if this
Yeah.
thing falls
Where
apart,
else are we gonna buy it?
if this thing falls apart and he's willing to do something, you've now opened the right in, right out,
Right.
and all those things. Now you have a lot more frontage road where you don't have to have the right in, right out that is currently on the plans right now for that area.
If we're not giving him commercial, you know, if we're talking about,
No, it's not commercial.
No, it's single.
Yes.
It's residential.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is
If-
residential.
if we're no longer talking about, again, my biggest fear has always been commercial in that corner
Yeah.
and screwing up our traffic, just
Right.
when we're about to fix it. But if
Yeah.
we're not doing commercial there, and we've all said that's gonna be either a village hall or a park, buying Robbie's property makes perfect sense.
Right.
He may not be interested though.
Yeah.
He may not be interested,
So,
but I
so,
never want it to be a park and then this
Commercial.
obscure commercial.
Yeah, right.
so he only has 3.5 acres there. So what do you do between single family homes and a park? What could you do? Could you put in, I mean, an office building like an accountant building where you don't have much coming, or an attorney's, something like that? Or, you know,
Insurance.
maybe, what's that?
Insurance, you know,
I-
little office building.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
there's talk about everything we talked about in here is everything from an ice cream shop.
Right, right.
Lanny used to talk about to something that you can change it to where and you get the set. We as council get to set the uses, which is important, and how big that building is. But that transition is important because I think as you transition from Marvin Creek to the retail area of Coles, you have a age restricted, well, there's not enough room to do anything like that. But what do? If he's willing to sell, I'd be willing to make a fair offer on that. And now you capture 7
From a
acres.
residential
I just-
standpoint, I agree.
I just wanna make sure when we have these discussions, we're clear on, you know, when you talk about us buying it in the future, is that us attaching it to a park and it's still parking, or? Because then you transition to a smaller like office space,
Yeah.
which I'm not totally against. I'm just saying, if the corner's our park and we had an opportunity to buy it, I'm looking for a bigger park.
I can accept that and think, my concern is he even willing to sell? I don't know, because I haven't had that conversation with him and I don't
And
know.
we should probably,
Yeah, but we have to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, we are.
In a
yeah.
open session. It's just when you get to, if we're gonna make a
As long as
plan.
none of this raises taxes, because if people wanna see,
Well, keep in mind, and this is the
It's
thing, that
forced,
anything we do on there, once we put a shovel to that, then we own it, then we have to maintain it, take care of it. You put a park there, you're gonna have to maintain it. There's gonna be a cost in it. Whether it raises taxes, I don't think we get to that point. But if we're doing something in there and can create an environment that, you know, is not gonna rate, but it creates a gathering place, I just think that once we put a shovel to it, then we're gonna own it and have to maintain it and take care of it. Keeping it as natural as possible with the natural trails that go right behind it makes perfect sense. How you do that, that's for the designers to do. If you can have a multi-use type place that could be used for, in the days, a farmer's market, and in the evenings, a gathering place where food trucks pull up and small little gatherings and stuff. So,
Would be ideal.
but
Okay.
that's all we had on that. Sorry we got so long-winded on that. My apologies. So, subdivision roads. Did anyone else have anything else on the?
No, I'm great
Okay.
with making that a park, dog park,
Okay.
theater.
Yeah.
And then the only reason we have a closed session in there is because we just want to let you guys know what had happened and transpired in the offer. Subdivision roads.
Okay, I only have 2 things. One, we received both of the checks from the HOAs, Oak Brook and Weddington Chase
Right.
HOAs, have both paid us. We've gotten several more annexation applications from Weddington Chase.
Weddington
And
Chase,
they asked
both of
for an
them got
update
one.
recently, and that, yeah, I used forward, I got that one.
Okay.
But they asked recently for an update so that they can continue to work on that.
Are they only got a few left, or is it still?
Do you remember the count, Barbie?
I think there was 7.
7 left?
No, I've gotten 7
Oh, 7 new
petitions.
ones.
So we have
Oh, that's
7
good.
petitions.
8 or 9 left.
So, 8 or
Depending
9
on if you
left.
look at 15
Yeah.
or 16, I can't remember the number.
Yeah.
And Oak Brook gave us theirs, so we've gotten that money. And then the other thing, the only other thing I was gonna say was, one of the things Laura and I have on our list to do is to meet with the engineers and Philip and kind of talk to him about, okay, now that we've gotten these 3 subdivisions, from there, the engineer's perspective, what's our next step? You know, like, what do we do in this next year? Like, you know,
Right, well, I think a lot of that,
because we've not ever had, Laura and I have not
Yeah.
ever had the conversation with them about that. So we
Okay.
don't know what, are they waiting for us to tell us something? Are they gonna come to us with a decision?
we probably need to look at our chart and just decide which is next, you know. the
Well, and I
next-
guess
the
we
next one
wanna have
down.
that conversation
Yeah,
with them,
and
so we're
maybe,
gonna talk
maybe we
with
should bring
them.
them in
Mhm.
and talk, what are your recommendations? Because remember, we didn't
Right.
wanna pick
Right,
subdivisions, because then it becomes political. I'm picking your neighborhood or my neighborhood. Just happened that some of them were the worst roads, but I think we need to be consistent, have them pick.
right, have them
Yeah.
pick and then maybe tell us
Yeah.
what's next on DOT.
Now, because we're getting, did you guys get some message from,
Something like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
I
drove-
was getting ready to bring that up.
Yeah.
And I drove that night because I was driving my daughter to softball, and I drove down those roads, and they're atrocious.
oh, yeah, but some of them are private.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Providence.
I don't know.
That's what it
On
is.
the list. But
Yeah.
before we
Off
talk about
purpose.
that subdivision, whether it's John or Philip, as you're asking the question, understand that part of the list, it's not just we go down the list. The way they explained it to us is, look, these 2 we should negotiate with DOT on, which means they get moved here, and this one you really don't want to do till year 5. We want them to make those decisions.
Right, and that's what we kind of wanna
Right,
go to
right.
them and say, okay, where do you understand we are in the process? Tell
Right.
us where we are.
With remembering, we don't have to do, if we decide this year we're buying this and we want to do something here, that $100,000 or the 2, we can only put 100 there for maintenance and put the other 200 over here for this.
Right,
So we have that flexibility. No one's telling us we have to do that. It's up to us to decide how many roads we take and how
right,
stretched out that is. So
right,
don't
and you
lose
saw
track
the,
of that.
well, you
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
worked on
we
that
worked on
one
that.
plan,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so
yeah.
that's a preliminary
Yeah.
look at what the future looks like.
Yeah. And I don't know, did these guys see it? Did you have it at the retreat?
Yes.
Okay, good,
We
good.
went over it.
And the money's, it's 5 years, right?
Yes.
So
for-
a
for-
dollar that comes today, we have 5 years to spend.
Yes. and we'll-
Right, and we've actually spent all the money we've gotten so far, between the
Which is-
roundabout and
yeah.
this year's resurfacing, so we're good for 2 years at least.
Yeah,
I was just piggybacking your idea that you can skip a year.
yeah,
The
yeah.
money can skip 4
Yeah.
years, but it's got to be
Yes.
spent year.
And I'm personally not an advocate of using as it comes in, use it all as it goes out. I would like to have a slower pace while I'm building a little bit reserve in case of an emergency, something happens, we don't say. So that's just my thoughts. Okay,
Was there
Joe?
something else that you all needed to?
No, I just
No.
wanted to make sure that we
Should we address
the-
her in a, because I haven't responded to
I
her
haven't
yet. The only
responded.
thing I did is drive in the neighborhood and said,
Oh,
wow,
no.
how did this
I'll
get?
forward
And
it
talking
to
to
you.
Nick, he said something about, well, it may not be, let's
I
not
said
get ahead of our
some
skis here.
private,
It may not be a private road.
Some
Well, I don't know what you
some
want.
are private, some are DOT. Now, if they're DOT, we should be able to write a letter and we can ask John. Is this, maybe that's our first thing. We'll write John.
I don't think I got whatever
I
you
just-
guys
I
are.
This
just forwarded it
subdivision
to you.
isn't on the list at all, I think, right?
Part of it
Parts
is.
of
Part
it
of it
is.
is-
Some of it is, yeah.
Some roads are and some
When we
roads
entered this out bill, we all agreed that, and this is part of Underwood,
Yeah,
he didn't sell us, but this was part of his
aren't.
spiel, was if a road's just not even acceptable, he can go to DOT and say, what can you do for us? Which is what they did with Weddington Chase. I mean, the front of that subdivision was awful.
I know, I live on it.
So,
It's a sinkhole.
so the first step would be, I think Nick just said it, is to see what's, or whoever said it, what's private and what's not, right?
And that's on our inventory of roads that we
Yeah.
have.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, they may come back and say that this is a public road, and then we might have to say, okay, can we negotiate that you can take this and bring it up to standard for us? You know what I mean? If that's the case, I have no problem with bringing them up. But if it's a private road,
They may say they have to pay to build it up to
yeah,
standard
if it's
first.
private, yeah,
Right.
that's private,
You're
I don't
right.
think we should do the low hanging fruit, right? The ones that don't have these issues, right? When we got into Weddington Chase, you gotta pay this if you're doing this, right? So we pay to play.
Okay.
You know, I'm saying DOT may say that, you know, they gotta build it up to standards.
Right, right.
It's private road, they gotta bring it up to standards. before we
Especially if
even-
it's like a zebra road where they own part and then they don't
That's
own
what I
part,
remember,
they
if
own
I-
part.
yeah.
And that's what we need to find out. We need to
Yeah.
clarify that, and
That's
find
what
out
we
who
need to
owns
start
what.
Right, and we have that on the inventory from
Right.
AMT.
Right,
I
right.
mean, it says, it's a list of the state roads and then the non-state roads are in that inventory, so we can look at
Okay.
that.
Okay,
So I'll look at this email
I just
then.
sent it to you.
Okay, so I'll look at the email and then I'll deal with it.
They had some really, really bad ones in there, but they were a combination of theirs and,
Really
yeah,
bad.
And
yeah.
that would be an
There's
example of
not-
the hardest part of this, because
Yeah.
we knew going into it, like my subdivision, they're private roads.
Right,
So you're not,
We're
you're
not
not
even on
gonna
the list.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
If we ever
Yeah.
wanted to be, we would have to pay out of pocket to
To
bring
bring
it
it
up
up.
to standards.
right.
And that's where some of these are,
That's where
if I
some of
remember
those are,
correctly,
yeah.
yeah, so,
So,
yeah, okay.
Okay. We good?
Yeah.
All right, we're review action items. Oh boy.
I have 20.
You have 20?
I
I have 7.
27
Okay.
items.
So I'm missing.
Yeah, can we straw poll vote it and say, yeah, this
Well,
is
you can
good?
look at Barbie's list and I'll update my master table.
Let's see, appoint Kelly Cates to the planning board on March 28th. Is that date right? I had originally April the 10th.
Yeah, now it's probably March
March
26th
26th.
if we move the,
So now it's March 26th.
If the planning
Month-
board says
If
they can
the,
move.
if,
Monday, right, whatever the Monday.
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the planning board.
if planning board, okay. All right, then revise the policy for initiating development with Laura, Chris, and put on the April 10th agenda. Table the healthcare policy until the March 26th to get more information on including advisory boards. And I'm not sure I got all of this, but ask Melanie to draft a policy and add to the agenda in April that need an action if the 48 hours in advance, hiring, firing, or supermajority appointed of boards. I didn't
understand
get
what
all
it's
of
supposed to
that.
do. I got it.
Okay. And then, let's see, we're gonna work on the
Close session.
the
landowner.
landowner's letter.
Yep.
And then send back the sports clinic standards to the PRG for review of fees. And then ask planning board to see if they can meet on March the 26th at 6 p.m. or the end of April 26th at 6 p.m. That's what I have.
Okay. Did you have 20?
Mhm.
Really? Wow. You wanna go
You
through
don't
them?
think you don't give me things to do with this?
Oh, no, you're.
Okay, get a more current email for Brian Beatty and add it to the next agenda. Do a spring newsletter, find out about food trucks at movie night, follow up on the code, getting the code of ethics forms back that were distributed, send the benefits table to council. There's a bunch of action items from the consent agenda that I have to follow up on. Barbie to send HOA letter, revise 8F, whatever that is. Call Bjorn, talk to him about the motion that you guys made tonight. Give Kim the policies for the policy book, something about 9B, whatever that is. Amber Meadows, follow up with you guys, make sure you guys meet with them.
Was revised the other letter, the landowner letter?
Maybe.
Is that what that was?
Possibly. Listen to the PRG recording and look at council notes about 9D.
9B was discussing consideration of trail standards.
Yeah, so
Okay,
we have
so
to
revise
redo,
that?
you have to
Okay.
revise that. 9D, move it to the next meeting, and look at the Providence States email that you just sent me and follow up on that.
Glad you have time
So
for
they're
that.
not all her action items. But yeah, if you didn't think you gave me 20 things to do,
Sorry.
that's okay.
Good notes.
Staff did warn me that this was getting long, but, you know, I mean, I'd love to see things move forward as they are, so. Thank you very much. Any other additions or anything we're seeing we're
Which one,
missing?
Mark?
Okay, we'll just go around the room, council comments. Anyone wanna start? I don't wanna.
Council comments, well, it seems like we had two different meetings tonight.
It's a little juice.
First one was not on our best form. Second one, I think, went a lot better. I would hope that we could kind of move towards the second way more often. I'm excited, I'm excited about the possibilities of the town hall. I hope that, we've allayed some of council members' fears or whatever of what they think we had in mind or what we, nefarious plans were in doubt, but make sure there aren't any. And I'd just like to, hopefully we can move forward, doing the business we're supposed to be doing and spend less time arguing and making a spectacle in front of ourselves, in front of people when they're here, and, move forward.
Thanks, Nick.
And thank you to staff for all that. Barbie and Chris and Melanie, everybody for all the work they're getting us ready.
Ron?
I'll be quick. You're right, agenda was a little too long, so if we could break it up. I think when you put 3 meetings together, I only went to 2, I'm worn out. So,
Catching up.
okay,
That's all you had?
that's it.
All right. Robert?
I agree with Nick. Good latter portion of the meeting. I enjoyed it. And, we can have a lot more like that if we all understand where we're each coming from. We're not always going to agree, but, sorry, I'm trying to find a text my daughter sent me because that's part of my council comments. Getting that email of what transpired with that property was a surprise, and it was a setback for me. I think we cleared a lot of that up tonight, and I appreciate it. I really appreciate knowing that everyone's on the same page with that corner. That's been weighing on me for a year and a half. And part of the reason language like this existed, because I had a very different idea of what was going on. Thank you, Barbie, for dinner. I heard you provided that. Delicious.
Oh, yeah.
Did you make those sandwiches?
Yeah.
By tomorrow,
She made it happen.
Cooking all day.
She made it happen.
It's one of my favorite places. Thank you. And thank you, Chris, for a very well-organized, both of you, well-organized meeting with one hell of an agenda. And good. I missed the budget meeting, but I'm perfectly comfortable with your budgets. I've seen 100 of them by now. So my daughter asked for a plug. There is a art show.
A what?
An art show.
Oh, I thought you said car show. I was like,
There is a car show. There is a car show for the high school band. I think that's in April.
yes, my daughter's with that.
Okay, cool. You need to bring the car. But there's an art show at the high school, March 21st, 5 to 8 p.m. And the entry fee is $3.
What time is it at?
It's at 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Or 321
1st.
art show.
Will it be things for sale? Or is
I
it
think
just
it's
a display?
fundraiser, so I think it's a display. But
And I think there's performances by like the choir
I
and
think so.
stuff of that, because
Yeah.
we went to the musical and they were talking.
What did you say the entry fee
she's
was?
a teenager, so she only gave me
I
very
think
few
it's all
details.
different arts, not just.
It's
Well-
not just an art show.
$3 admission?
$3 admission.
When's 6 then?
It's March 21st, 5 to 8 p.m. at the high school.
So can I interrupt a minute? Because this reminds me of something that I wanted to ask you all. In the past, over time, we have had periods of time where we posted things like this related to the schools when we found out about them on our village website, because we felt like it was meant to be sort of a community place where people could look for information like this. Are you all okay with that still? Is this council
Yes.
feel good about that? Do you
Yes.
want us to,
Anything
as we
involves
hear
the
about these
community,
things?
if it
Yes.
involves the community and stuff, so.
Absolutely.
Okay, because like, for example, I truly appreciate that you've moved the March 28th meeting because now it eliminates the conflict because the Ayton Strong game in honor of Jeff Ayton is going to be on March 28th. And so
Cool.
now
What
I
is
can
it?
What we
go-
knew you wanted to say.
What is it? What's on March 28th?
The Ayton Strong women's lacrosse game at Morgan Ridge High School,
Oh.
which is to raise money for the Jeff Ayton Memorial Scholarship,
Mm.
which I'm on the planning committee for. And so
There you go.
now I can go to them.
Good.
I think all that stuff should go on the website.
Okay.
And if you feel the need to run it by somebody, I would run it by Joe.
Okay, so
So
Barbie works
this
with that.
event's put on by National Art Honor Society and Art Club. They're helping run it.
National Art Society.
So we can probably get more information
We
on
can
the
just call the high
website.
school, couldn't
Yeah.
we?
Well, we
Or
can
the
go on the
school
school
website.
website. Mhm.
Okay. Which school is this?
Marvin
Marvin.
Ridge.
Marvin.
Ridge.
Okay. Anything else?
And thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I know the meetings aren't always easy, especially sitting next to me, but thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
I just want to thank staff. You guys did a great job. Melanie, thank you. And I mean, I echo what Nick and Robert said about having a much better second half, and I like those meetings much more than the first half. So, yep, that's it.
Okay, thank you. I had one thing real quick, correct the record regarding the last meeting where I stated something about the property located at the county line was part of the de-annexation. I don't believe that is correct. That was actually a different property that I mentioned. I think you were asking if it was. So for the record, correcting that was not what part of the de-annexation, because that's already been done. That was regarding something else. Staff, I can't say enough. I know, Chris, you are trying to keep the hours that you have, and I will promise you this, that I will, if I have to beat up our own council, I will, to make sure we compensate you in some way that we feel is appropriate and stuff. But I think what you've done and be able to create these meetings, and again, with your help as well, really appreciate the efforts, because, you know, even though we've taken a couple steps back with staffing and stuff, I think we're starting to put the right people in place. I think Laura's doing just a bang-up job, and I think her giving the support to Kelly, I think, is imperative. So thank you again for that. We all mentioned it somehow, how we didn't start off on the right foot here, but I think in the end it all starts with respect and respecting one another. We are going to disagree. We constantly talk about that, but it's just showing respect. I don't think anyone has, in my talking individually with any council member, I don't think there's anyone that has any particular agenda. And if it puts you at ease at that, then if that's what it took, then I'm glad, because I could tell just in the 2 minutes I went for a bathroom break that the level of contention for me has dropped considerably, which I hope we can continue this. I really do, and that's important. The minutes, we are behind. I recognize that. We use the company. I thought, quite frankly, and I shared with Barbie earlier, that it's almost like verbatim minutes that we got. Do we need that? I don't think so. I think we talked about high level, where we can kind of shrink those and get through them quicker. I maybe Lanny had rubbed off on me, but I remember him always going through and changing letters and words and stuff that weren't correct. But I am reading these things and I'm looking at them and I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound right or whatever. So I apologize for that. I hope we can get that process also caught up as soon as we can and get up to speed on what we have and get back to doing the work of the community. I think I'm excited about some of the things that potentially could happen, and if they don't, either way, there are other options there for us. So good to hear that you guys are at least open to looking at it. And Ron, I would encourage you to, if you can somehow, if you have an opportunity to get over there and look at it and just kind of get your head wrapped around that. So I think that's all I had, and I know there's something I'm forgetting, but I apologize. But with that, I'm going to ask to move into closed session and then we'll go into adjournment. So for pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A5 to consider property acquisition for negotiation and terms.
At 10208 Newtown Road.
10208 Newtown Road. Property located at that address. Further discussion? All's in favor? Motion passes. We're in closed session now. If you want to hit that. You want to recap?